Good evening. Welcome to May 3rd Selectboard and Sewer Commissioners meeting. This meeting is held in a virtual settings. Zoom information can be found on the agenda. Roll call, all members present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is public comment. Is there any public comments? Hearing none. Approval of meeting minutes, March 1st, 2023, executive session meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Not for release.
So moved.
Huh?
Not for release.
Not for release. We have a motion? Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. March 6, 2023, executive session meeting minutes not for release.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. March 13, 2023, regular meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. March 15, 2023, regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second. We have motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. March 15, 2023, executive session meeting minutes not for release.
So moved. Second.
We have motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Review and vote to approve warrants for the period covering April 19, 2023 through May 3rd, 2023.
Make a motion to approve the warrants as printed in the agenda.
Second.
We have motion and second. Any further discussions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Next item is new business. Acknowledge and accept. Oh, sorry. So the next item is, I'm taking appointments and resignations. Consider appointments of Jason Brockway to the Finance Committee effective May 4, 2023 for a term to expire June 30th, 2024. Come forward. So moved.
Second.
We're doing capital investment separate.
That's a moderator appointment.
Oh,
We have motion.
And a second.
We have motion and second. We'll open up to the board. Is there any questions for the Jason?
Want to introduce yourself to the town and tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. My name's Jason Brockway. I've lived in town about a year and a half. I'm joining this board to just keep West Boylston a great place to live and raise kids. My wife was born and raised here. I'm now raising kids here and just trying to do whatever I can to keep it a good place.
Why Finance Committee?
I work in finance in my day job.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries.
Thanks
Good luck.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
get you on about 5 more boards before the end of the
Right.
Sounds good, thanks.
Totally, I was thinking that. Is your wife on any boards? What would she like to be?
Thank you. So, new business. Acknowledge and accept donations on behalf of the town received from the library trustees between May 1st, 2022 and February 28, 2023. $582 revolving account. $1,114.60 payment for lost and damaged books and materials, general donations and memorial gifts. $990 grant from Hyatt Family Foundation in support of the newspaper and magazine collection in the Robert M. Hyatt Family Reading Room. this is just acknowledgement. So, May 15,
Acknowledge and accept.
acknowledge and accept.
Accept.
You want a motion?
To accept.
So moved.
Second.
So, motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So the next item is May 15, 2023, semi-annual town meeting. Vote to approve and post warrant. So we will go one by one. Because we have a lot to go through. So in the past, we have done like, combining two or three warrant article and then vote together. So we may do that same thing here. So the Article 1, authorization to hear the reports of officers and the committee of the town.
So moved. You want it? Okay, do you
I
want it?
think, we can combine and
Okay, then
we can.
draw my motion.
Few articles we will combine. Article 2, this is the Article 1 is a standard article. Article 2, authorization to borrow in anticipation of revenue and enter into compensating balance agreement with the bank. It's also a the standard article. Article 3, authorization to expend funds in the anticipation of reimbursement of state highway assistant aid. This is also a standard article. Article 4, authorization to amend the personal bylaw and to amend the classification and compensation plan so as to provide employee a cost of living pay increase in FY 2024 2%. So that's, is there anyone wants to discuss on this?
I make a motion to add Articles 1, 2, 3, and 4 to the warrant.
Second.
So we have a motion and second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor to add Article 1 to 4 to the town meeting warrant?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Article 5, authorization to set the salary of elected official. This is a standard article. Article 6, authorization to transfer unexpended funds from fiscal year 2023 appropriation. Again, this is a standard article. Article 7, authorization to pay bills from the previous fiscal year. Again, this is also a standard article. Authorization to appropriate money to the sewer enterprise account for the fiscal year 2024. So, I'm not sure, if anyone want to discuss on the Article 8.
I'll make a motion to approve Articles 5 through including Article 8 on the warrant.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Any discussion on Article 8? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Article 9, fiscal year 2024 omnibus budget appropriation article. This is a standard article. Article 10, vote to appropriate funds for the capital improvement purchases. So, is there anyone wants to discuss on the capital investment? No? Okay. So, Article 11, vote to establish amend departmental revolving funds. Article 12, departmental revolving funds. So this article sets the limit on the spending limits.
I'll make a motion to include Articles 9 through 12 in the warrant.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Is there any further discussion on any of the articles? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Article 13, authorization to appropriate funds to the OPEB trust fund. It's a standard article. Article 14, authorization to appropriate funds to the municipal building fund. This is a newer one. Article 15, acceptance of Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 110A. Article 16, acceptance of Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 22nd G. Article 17, authorization to amend general bylaws.
So how do you want to discuss these things?
Well, now you can,
So we can make you can make the,
oh,
Why don't we discuss before we make a motion that we have to change?
we can make a motion and then second, and during the time we can discuss.
So
Either way.
Make a motion.
discuss.
I'll make a motion to include Articles 13 through and including 17 in the warrant.
Second.
So we have a motion and second. Any further discussion on any of the articles?
Is there any thoughts on the Article 15, which is to close during voting on Saturdays? When we could have, when there are applicable voting days on Saturday?
Okay. I will,
I don't, I guess I'm okay with it. They can mail their vote in or whatever. But I just didn't want to go by.
Town admin, is there any explanation for this?
Sure, so this is MGL that allows the town to treat Saturday as a legal holiday for the purposes of calculating filing deadlines, such as voter registrations or nomination papers. So it's really about the voter registration deadline. So there was a change in 2022 that changed the voter registration deadlines to 10 days prior to all elections as opposed to 20 days prior to all elections. So those deadlines will now fall on a Saturday. So this is only about voter registrations and is not about voting, it's about voter registration. It only applies to municipal elections, not state or federal elections. And it would allow the town clerk to hold voter registration sessions on Fridays, avoiding the costs associated with opening that additional Saturday.
Any further questions?
Yeah, Article 17, it says that this article will require all boards and committees and commissions to submit copies of their minutes to the town clerk. That wasn't a,
No, so currently there are there's no state statute or local provision that requires boards and committees to submit a copy of their minutes. There are requirements for boards and committees to keep their own minutes. But you have the case where the town clerk has some boards and committees, commissions that routinely submit a copy of their minutes to the clerk for a separate and additional filing in her office, but you have some that she does not ever receive.
I wasn't aware of that.
Any further questions? Go ahead, Mark.
Question on Article 16, which seems to be about veterans living in rented or something other than ownership apartments. Is that just so they can keep getting the benefit?
So no, it's not about, this has to do with real property tax abatements for veterans. So we're talking about ownership, not rental.
Okay.
And this is the case where a veteran is living in a home that is not owned by them in their name. So where there's a trustee or other fiduciary that the home is in that name, but the veteran otherwise qualifies, it allows them to still get that exemption for property taxes.
Okay, I'm good with that then.
It actually, in talking to the assessors, it really only affects under a handful of
3 people.
folks. So it's not that there's going to be a large negative financial impact as well.
Thank you.
Dave has a question.
Dave, you have a question?
She basically answered the question I was gonna ask, because I feel like I'm in that situation, or in this situation. My wife owns the condo, and we're married, and it's not in my name, it's totally in her name. So, and we're both seniors, so I don't know if I would be, and I'm a veteran.
I don't know if it's, if it would apply in the situation where it's a spouse. It's really when there's more of a situation with a veteran that the property is owned by a third party for some other legal reason. But certainly, the assessors will know much more about that than me, so
So will somebody at town meeting be discussing this?
the Board of Assessors will be
Okay.
present.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion and second. All in favor?
What are we doing?
Until 17.
What is 17 about?
I just already asked that question.
What was it about?
17.
All the boards have to submit minutes to the town clerk. 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, right here.
Oh, in the explanation. Okay, all right, I'm good.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Pay attention.
Article 18, authorization to amend the personal bylaw of the general bylaws. So, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Okay. We have a motion and second. Any further discussion?
Can I bring my caution up?
Go ahead, Mark.
I'm concerned, I'm concerned that we delete the language out of the bylaw, but don't get the guideline in place in time, in which case, at some point, there would be an unrestricted hiring frenzy in town. So I guess that's my only concern. I don't know if we want to make sure that we oblige ourselves to get that bylaw regulation written quickly.
The policy, you mean,
The policy, yeah.
policy.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think it might be helpful if I share my screen with folks to bring up the personnel bylaw, if that's all right? Okay, let's see if we can get this
Oh, yeah, that's
a little bigger. And maybe a little bigger. Okay. So this is the current hiring procedures. And what this retains, they're only highlighted yellow because I did a Control F for the word hiring. So it really retains these first two paragraphs. What it changes in this section is the deletion of cemetery commission, now that the DPW and cemetery workers have been combined. What it removes from the bylaw is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there were two main impetuses that resulted in me bringing forward these changes to the personnel board. The first is this section here that says that West Boylston maintains a policy of promoting internally and will at least initially advertise all positions internally. And there's a requirement that all those positions are advertised for a minimum of 5 working days before those are publicly advertised. Secondly, there is,
I'm sorry. We're talking about, you're taking everything out.
so everything out, so. but-
Everything's out. So what you're talking about is the policy we're gonna have to write after.
Yeah, so,
So it has nothing to do really with the article. You're
So,
saying just take all this out.
So I'm explaining the rationale for why making a change.
And that
This
the,
is the bylaw as it stands now, these 8 paragraphs, correct?
Correct. So I'm explaining the rationale of why a change. What's shared on the screen is the current. So that's number 1, is the requirement of an internal posting. Number
So
2.
what's the rationale? You're saying that you don't want it anymore, or you're just telling us it's there, or that you don't want it anymore?
If you could allow me to finish, please.
Oh, I thought you were moving on to the next one. Go ahead.
Because they really work in tandem. The second item is that all postings, once we go external, are required to be posted in a newspaper of general circulation. That's no longer where people are looking for changes, for jobs. And then kind of an overarching thing that when there are, like in this situation with the newspapers, when there are changes based on the times that need to be made, we can only make them 2 times a year because they are in a bylaw, not in a policy. So what I am proposing is that we remove this from the bylaw, that the select board adopts a hiring policy. I have given you a red line that is on your desk this evening of a draft of a policy that the select board could consider. To Mr. Frieden's point, the question about timing, if this is adopted on May 15th at the annual town meeting, after that, it has to go to the Attorney General for review. The Attorney General is being inundated with all sorts of bylaw changes. So there is usually a matter of months before we get the opinion back from the Attorney General. So if this is adopted at town meeting, the select board can start to work on the policy as early as May 17th, if so inclined. So May 17th, June, what have you, to put a policy in place. That's my draft of a policy that you have in front of you, but the select board, of course, could make changes to that draft. You could take and keep exactly what we have. In the draft, I will say that although the positions could be posted concurrently, that there is language providing that a qualified internal candidate would take preference over an external candidate.
One question, what are the departments will be affected by this?
So the personnel bylaw applies to all non-union personnel. So this does not apply to,
Specifically town hall people.
so it applies to town hall folks, it applies to administrative folks in other departments that are non-union. So it would apply to the fire chief, it would apply to his administrative assistant, it would apply to the police chief, his administrative assistant, it would apply to the DPW director, his administrative assistant, as well as town hall folks. And library personnel as well. And senior center, yes. So anybody that is not in a union and is not in the school, this would apply to them.
So,
Go ahead.
with Mark's question, if it's right from town meeting forward, will this still be in place?
So this is in place until the Attorney General, yes, until the Attorney General opines back to us about the language.
So this is still in place, so the policy can be done when we're waiting for the Attorney General?
Absolutely, yes. And the Personnel Board has recommended approval of this article.
Any other discussion?
Do you want to motion that one only, or want to keep going?
No, we are still discussing. Any other discussion?
I'm good.
For me, I think, the bylaw is good compared to the policy. So I'm not sure, we could, if some of the things are not up to date, we could revise the bylaw rather than, removing all those items, 6, 7 items from that, seems to me it's taking away a lot of control. Anyway, so is there a motion?
We already have a motion in a second, I believe.
What article are we on again?
18.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. 19, authorization to amend personal bylaw of the general bylaws.
No, we finally chased him out.
Yeah, is there a motion?
It's already settled.
Is there a motion for this?
So moved, Article 19.
Second.
We have a motion and second. The town administrator, you want to
I do, Mr. Chairman. I want
change?
to share my screen again. Okay. All right. So the Personnel Board removed this language from the bylaw, which states, employees who will earn an additional week's vacation in the then current year may be granted this additional week's vacation before their anniversary date, but shall not be paid for this time until the aforesaid of anniversary date. The language is vague, which is why it was removed. However, the removal of that language brought up another issue, and that's when you are moving between these categories. So you're going from 2 weeks of vacation to 3 weeks of vacation. You get it on your anniversary date, but you don't start accruing until the fiscal year. So the question becomes, is that the fiscal year before your anniversary date? Is it the fiscal year after your anniversary date? Some towns say you have to have that many years complete by the beginning of the fiscal year. This was the Personnel Committee or Board was making other changes to this section at my request, and this, I think, was an unintended consequence. My recommendation is that I work with Town Council on a motion that would fix this piece. but that if folks cannot agree to that in the meeting prior to town meeting, I would recommend that we pass over this article at town meeting and bring it up in October. As you may recall, the purpose of this change to this vacation section was allow for folks that are coming from other municipalities who have 5 years of vacation to not start at 0 if they come to West Boylston. But I'm concerned with that language being omitted, what the actual consequences will be.
Go ahead, Mark.
I still don't understand why we only do it for municipal employees. Like if somebody's coming with 5 years from wherever they are, 5 weeks of vacation from wherever they are, even if it's private industry, are we saying, why do we not want to do the same thing for them?
Because I will speak from my own personal experience. Their municipal government is very different than the private sector. I worked in the private sector before coming to municipal government, even though I had state background. If you don't understand the way municipal government works, that you're really starting afresh, and you are starting like a new employee. There are so many things that are different here.
So do we want to not, I mean, this sort of unencourages private sector applications. Do we want to do that?
I don't think we want to, well, I think it becomes, let me answer this in a different way. This is a bright line, right? So this is if you have worked for a municipal, state, or county government, this is a bright line that would trigger you getting additional vacation.
And it's not a guarantee.
And it's not guaranteed, it's subject to the approval of three entities, myself, this body, and the personnel board. If we start talking about private sector folks, how do we qualify that, right? Like, it's not everybody who hasn't worked, this would apply to everybody. And then, there would be an issue with many employees who started at square one when they came over from private sector.
Oh, right, but it's going to be the same thing. I mean, anybody who came from another town right now walk through the door is going to start at
I think a practical reality is that public sector pays significantly less than the private sector. And the chance of somebody coming from private sector work that say, if you've been a civil engineer in the private sector to move over to become a DPW director, you see it actually going more the other way. You see it going from public sector to private sector.
So I'm just wondering, why would the personnel board have to approve this? Well, you're the hiring authority, we approve, usually concur with your appointment. Why do we have to send it to all 3 boards? Why the personnel board?
I think the personnel board serves as a nice neutral.
What, you're gonna say, well, I suggest we give them 2 weeks, and they're gonna sit there and they're gonna look over their application, they're gonna look over their...
The personnel board considers grievances. I mean, they're looking at all sorts of private matters with employees.
So any one of those 3 groups say no to this, the person doesn't get it.
Correct.
I think it should be the Board of Selectmen and the appointing authority, and we usually concur with the appointment.
We can, if that is so the point of a warrant is to put the public on notice of what is going to be discussed at town meeting, right? So if this board wants to remove the personnel board from the language, we can do that in the motion as well. So if you want it to just be the select board and the town administrator, we can do that in the motion, if the board is so inclined.
No, that's my thought.
No, well,
You can do
I'm saying
whatever
that if the board wants to do that, then you could make a motion that it's subject to that revision.
it doesn't make a difference, whatever you guys want.
And do you want to change it?
Whatever the board,
Well, if we're going to change it, I want to make it everybody.
you want everybody to... I just think we usually hire someone, now 3 boards have to meet before we have to get the personnel board to meet before we can tell this person they have the job. If they can't meet for a couple weeks, I mean, we know we meet that's my thought. I
Can
don't
still
see,
hire them, it's just whether how much vacation time they're gonna start
that could be
accruing.
their reason,
Could
they
be.
could be they're up or down if I take the job, I mean.
As a practical matter, do you see the personnel board ever saying no if you recommend?
No.
So then I don't think the personnel board needs to be in there.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's just a rubber stamp and it adds an extra layer.
In time. In time for the whole process.
So did we already move this article or no?
It's
I
moved.
think we did.
It's moved.
I
It's
think there
moved?
was a motion and a second.
Motion and second. We have a motion and second.
Yep.
You want to withdraw the, I don't know who made the motion.
I think I did.
Okay. Who made the motion?
Chris and Christina, but that's a motion to allow this article to go to town meeting.
But we are
But we
going to
can change
change.
this right now, can't we?
To the motion, Jen said. So
Yes.
this would probably be 2 votes?
Yes, so you can vote, well, you can combine, you can withdraw the motion, and you could say, subject to this language being removed.
Okay. You want to
And-
withdraw the motion?
Let her finish. Whatever you want. I withdraw the motion.
I second it.
Okay.
Now you-
I'll make a motion to approve Article 19, striking the words personnel board in the last sentence.
Second.
So we have motion and second. Any further discussion on this? Hearing
Still can't
none.
apply it to everybody?
I don't agree with that,
Why, what's the difference?
It's a huge difference.
because this is an incentive to get qualified people that are in the public sector to make the move. If somebody's coming over from it's not an apples to apples move. If you have somebody coming from the private sector, they're doing a complete life and career change, and they're, if you're in the private sector for 20 years and you want to get into municipal government, there's no lateral move from the private sector, generally speaking, from the private sector.
Oh, right, but in a life sense, I mean, these people are not working right now for 1 week of vacation after 20 years of working anywhere, you know?
Generally speaking, after 20 years of work anywhere, you're not coming in to work in municipal government either.
Unless you
I
did
mean-
too good in your private sector.
I would only disagree with that because some people do come in later in their careers than they work for municipal government or state government. So I don't think that's unusual. Now, she used an engineer as an example, but let's not use engineers. Let's use other staff people. Obviously engineers or construction people they're not gonna come to municipal government, they're gonna go the other way. But other people may say, I've worked in private sector, now I wanna work for municipal government. So I don't find that unusual. People that are older do that. So I don't see any issue with giving the town administrator that option at least. What if a great employee comes and it's the only thing that's holding them is you gotta start with 0 vacation time, or we can start them off with a couple weeks vacation time. Why would we wanna lose that
And
person?
and there's the 2 boards of recommendation anyhow, it's not a standard. They could look at it and they'll see that they're not gonna get it.
Go
So,
ahead.
not that it's not terrible, when negotiations always happen when I hire people. My only concern is if you do that, you then open up everybody in this town hall. If you worked at McDonald's and you were 15, and then you worked at a restaurant for 10 years, and then you were a secretary, and you come in as, we just hired a new position, it was a full-time position
The
downstairs.
department assistant for
Department
inspections.
assistant, I get 20 years of service. I get 25
Oh, I
vacation
know.
days. No,
That's
but how do you, then what are your qualification around what's your qualification of what you would say is okay lengths of service?
Serve in a similar capacity.
I
So
wouldn't even, no,
McDonald's and coming here as a
But-
secretary wouldn't be.
But you just said.
but
he did
but
say
it wouldn't
that.
be, it wouldn't be that, it would be that they're coming over and they say, yeah, but right now I get 3 weeks of vacation, can I just start with 3 weeks of vacation regardless of
See,
anything?
Chris, that's what I'm saying,
No,
that's
I'm
where
saying
it comes different.
I'm using
You guys are
everything-
saying different.
I'm reading this and only taking out, adding it, says similar capacity. I would not think if someone.
Is that what you were saying? Because
You're
you're
saying that
saying
they
lengths
don't-
of
They
service
can
no
work
matter.
anywhere and then come here and they get it? You're saying
Yeah, I mean,
similar work.
Well, you wouldn't hire them otherwise.
There you go. So he's got it, I
I mean,
think
it would
we
be
all
like
agree.
you're an assistant
Secretary,
at across the street at whatever, at the cabinet place, and you're, whatever, like some front office person, and you come over here, private to municipal, and you say, well, yeah, but over there I had 2 weeks of vacation, I wanna come over here and have 2 weeks of vacation instead of none.
So to that point, so I'm gonna use that same example, the department assistant for inspection. So she had administrative experience. I would not say that she had experience with Board of Health regulations, Board of Health complaints, building inspections. So it really, when we say, when we say that just if you had administrative front office work somewhere, that's gonna translate and be similar, it's gonna become an argument with folks.
Private to
that's not-
public.
I mean, private to public, because it really is very, very different. Like that position manages a board. You're not doing that.
Right. Go ahead. I just think if you had a list of candidates and the municipal candidate with all the right experience is the top of the list, and you pick them. But if they're not there, and you have somebody who's smart, who's been successful in private industry, and perhaps could learn this, do you want to not hire them and reopen the search to find the municipal person?
So what I'm saying is, without there being a bright line, it could result in disparate treatment of employees coming in. That I'm making a judgment call that your administrative experience isn't similar, whereas somebody else in my shoes could say, I think it is similar. I like the bright line.
And that, if I could, that's the judgment call you have to make, even if it's another municipal office. They could work for some state organization that has nothing to do with this organization. And I don't think you should come and recommend that I give them extra vacation time. That's not unusual for you to make decisions
I
like
mean, we
that.
could eliminate county and state government systems as well and just say municipal.
I think we should give you the opportunity, if a great employee comes, and you're not gonna get an argument. If you get an argument with them, then you're not gonna hire them. Simple.
I'm concerned about the case where not hiring, where I have hired 2 people. One has been given 3 weeks of vacation. One, I said no, and there's 2 weeks of vacation. Now you have the disparate treatment between those 2 employees.
That could happen with municipal too, correct?
I,
Why could it not happen with somebody coming from the state that did nothing to do with the job they were applying
right,
for?
so I said we can strike county or state government.
And so you constrain it more rather than less.
So now we need to amend, withdraw the motion and
Well,
amend.
I don't
Or
know.
not,
Do
I
you
mean-
feel, I was gonna say, it's depending.
I mean, if most of the board feels it's,
I just am concerned that it opens us up for litigation, because now I could say, well, you go downstairs and visit her a bunch, and you don't go visit Cheryl and the other, you know, like, I like clean lines. I'll tell you, in the private sector, there is clean, based on your education, years of experience, you know, what you've done, there are brackets that you get put in. If I didn't have kind of clear lines, I could just do whatever I want, and then you could say, well, I found out Pat makes $50,000 more than me, or you gave him equity bonus you didn't give me. Why not? I have no idea why that wouldn't happen in this town hall, because everyone, the moment it passes, go, well, now they said they're considering anything, so I have these 6 years I spent in that office. Why am I not getting that? And that's my only concern, if there isn't some type of
So
line of some sort, like something.
so we should vote the whole
if that's the
mess
case,
down.
we should just all start them at 0 time, and they all start equally. If you're not gonna give the town administrator with her ability to pick and choose what she feels the employee should get, we should just start them all off as an employee.
I think the
Because
town
that could still
administrator-
happen with municipal, state government and municipal government.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a suggestion
Go
to the
ahead.
board? I started out talking about this article having an unforeseen consequence that would have to fix it in the motion. Why don't we not include this on the warrant? The board discusses this more between now and fall town meeting. We'll clean it up, and we bring it forward in the fall.
I'll withdraw my motion for Article 19.
Second.
So we have a motion and second. Any further discussion?
Well, no.
No,
So I make a motion to add Article 19 to the agenda,
All in
to the
favor?
warrant.
I'll
All in
second
favor?
that, I'll
Second.
second that.
A motion and a second to add Article 19 to the warrant.
So don't you think we have to,
But
you said you are withdrawing the motion, right?
Right, I already did that.
So
And I
we
already
need to
second.
vote on it, right, first?
Not
No,
on withdrawing,
it's
no.
not
True.
withdraw.
Okay.
So I made a motion and he seconded it to add Article 19 to the
And
warrant.
for discussion on that, I suggest that we take the town administrator's recommendation and vote against the motion that's on the floor. That way, this will not be included in the warrant, we can include it in 6
Okay.
months.
All in favor?
Okay. So that's a motion, right?
No,
That
we made a motion in a second, and that was under discussion.
So the motion is to include it, and I'm suggesting that we vote against it as part of the discussion.
So it's a motion to put it on, and we all say no, and it just doesn't go on.
Correct.
I'd ask for a vote.
So we need a no vote.
No, I'd ask for a vote.
It's a
Okay,
vote.
yeah.
You just need a vote.
So all in favor?
Say opposed.
Oppose?
Aye.
Aye. So this will not be on the town warrant. Okay. Article 20, authorization to amend personal bylaw of the general bylaws. So, Dominic,
Sure, so, in June 29th, 2020, the town voted to adopt an updated wage and classification plan. The previous plan that had been in place had 5 steps. The new plan has 12 steps that was adopted. So the language that was not addressed was the starting salary. So in the current language, it states that you cannot hire above step 3. That was the midpoint, and it says step 3, the midpoint of the plan. So at that time, when there was 5, step 3 was the midpoint. Now we have 12 steps. So in the motion, it's replacing that 3 with the word 6, so it brings it closer to the midpoint. With an even number, we can't get exactly at the midpoint, so 6.
okay. Is there a motion to add Article 20 to the warrant?
So moved.
Second. So you're saying you have the option to, the hiring person has the option to put him anywhere between 1 and 6,
Correct,
but no more than, can't go over 6?
correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Article 21, authorization to amend the general bylaws. This is Commission on Disability. This is a new bylaw.
Make a
And,
motion.
yes, so.
I'll make
go
a
ahead.
motion to include Article 21.
Second.
Okay. There is, the bylaw committee met last night. There is a bit of a change, or we need to make some changes. You want to go over that?
So, I was not at that meeting, so I don't know, Mr. Chairman, I know you were, I'm not sure what the discussion really involved about, it was about the number of members.
Number of, yeah.
So, right now, the way that it was drafted is that, about quorums, that there could be a board of 5, and the quorum would be 3, or a board of 7, and the quorum would be 4. And the bylaws committee wanted to add, as I understand, if it was a board of 6, that the quorum would also be 4. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the only change, correct?
No, there was another one too. It was on section 5 where it says meetings, number 4, the clarification of the chairperson or any other 3 members shall have power to call special meetings. And we were concerned about what 3 members, correct?
Yeah, is it any 3 member or 3 member together?
Okay.
I'm not
So I
following.
I'm not following this, sorry.
I don't understand what you're asking.
So the chairperson can make a, what is it,
Call a special meeting.
So we're on
call a special meeting.
section 5.4.
Yeah.
Right.
The chairperson can call a special meeting or
It's on here?
any 3 members.
You gotta go to that other section.
So is it any 3 member together or any 3 member individual? That clarification needed.
I mean,
How would you have 3 individually?
yeah, how would you have 3? I don't understand what
Any-
the confusion is. 3,
So we are 3 members, right? 1, 2, 3.
yeah,
So any member can ask.
right, but 2 other people would have to agree.
Otherwise, it's just anybody.
Right. I mean, I don't, to me, that's clear.
That's what the
not-
discussion.
that's not- The point was, it was a clarification, okay? The chairperson can call it, okay? But then, any other 3 members, so if Mark was the chair, if that was the board, if 5 members were the board and Mark was the chair, and then wanted to call a special meeting, but he didn't want to do it, any three of the rest of the four could call. So we just want to make sure, we were just trying to understand, does that mean any other three? So is it a combination, or is it just three individuals saying, do you understand what I'm trying to ask you? No.
I
I
don't.
wonder if it was
Well, I
seven.
don't know.
So if I could, this is number 4 of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
It says the chairperson or any other 3 members shall have the power to call a special meeting. So they're not voting on this. It's not it's just to call a meeting.
Yeah.
So the chairman should be the only person that,
But
not
if he's
any
out of
member.
town. If
You
he's out of
can't,
town.
how could you discuss with 3 other members to call a meeting? Because that would be a violation of the open meeting law.
That's a very good point.
So it has to be the chairman that calls a special meeting.
But if any other member wants to call a meeting.
They
how
can
do
call the chairman and they could say that I'd like to have a meeting on something,
So
and then it's
then,
up to you.
Then what this language, or any other 3 members.
Yeah, I don't
Make it-
understand what that
should be-
means.
You
I
can
don't
make it
understand
two,
what
so
that
it's not
part
an
means.
Open meeting violation.
So they do not want to go through the chairman. If any of the member wants to call a meeting, so they can call the meeting, special meeting.
That would be the case here. You're the chairman of this committee. Any of us could just call the town administrator and say, I'm not doing anything tomorrow, let's have a meeting. I mean, the
can
chair
do that.
has to do this. I mean, so I don't understand what the other 3 members means.
I don't understand why this was included originally. I know that the Disability Commission did use the state's sample bylaw as,
That's why it was included.
Got it.
from its origin.
Let's see.
State.
Now I gotta go look.
So certainly it could say the chairperson or the vice chairperson, or just the chairperson, and strike or any other 3 members.
Well, I mean, I don't think you need it at all. The
If-
chairperson.
Need it at all.
If it's only the chairperson, then you don't need it at all. If it's the chairperson or the vice chairperson.
I would just say we take a
Take out line 4.
line 4.
Okay.
Is that the catch when he's out of town or whatever, indisposed?
The chairman's out of town, more than likely you're not gonna call a special meeting when he's out of
I don't
town.
know.
I would wager that this was in the sample bylaws
Oh,
provided by
it
the.
was, I know 100% it was.
Okay. So do we need to make an amendment for this?
So there was taking out line 4, and then what was the other one?
If a commission consists of 6 or 7 members, a quorum shall consist of
Of
4
4.
members.
Okay.
So that's in section 5.2.
Okay.
Um,
You need to we have a motion and second, so we need to withdraw it or amend it.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Second.
I'll make a motion to approve with the changes just discussed.
Okay.
Second.
So any further discussion?
Mark's seconded it.
Dave's raising his hand.
Okay. Go ahead, Dave.
So, what we were talking about was, and it was brought up at our bylaw committee meeting, is that if there's 6 members, okay, to the board, how many of those constitute a quorum? Whereas on a 5-member board, it's 3 members, on a 7-member board, it's 4 members. And the moderator, who's the chair of the bylaw, wanted to know what happens if there's 6 people.
So now it's going to read, a quorum shall consist of 3 members if the commission consists of 5 members. If the commission consists of 6 or 7 members, a quorum shall consist of 4 members. That's what the new language is gonna say.
Thank you.
So we have motion
I
and
think that
second.
has, I don't think it has to be said. Quorum is 4 in both of those, but okay, that's fine.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Article 22, authorization to amend the zoning bylaw. So this bylaw is a continuation of non-conforming use. This is one of the bylaw I'm familiar with. So our town bylaw says, for if the property is not used for 1 year, then the non-conformity is, this bylaw is to align with the state bylaw. State bylaw requires 2 years of abandoned property, whereas the town bylaw says 1 year. So we are changing it to 2 years. So the perfect example is the Reservoir Motel. When the Reservoir Motel was, came into the board, so there were, the Reservoir Motel was not used for 2 years, abandoned for 2 years, just to, very, I think, couple of months before 2 years. Whereas, if I would have taken the town bylaw, it's 1 year. After that, non-conformity is gone. Whereas state law says we have to have 2 years to get this non-conforming use.
Is this only for that situation, or
Yeah.
is it for everything?
No, this is for, we are making the town bylaw to align with the state law. State law says 2 years,
The
whereas
buildings,
town,
not signs.
Well,
It's kind of grandfathered.
Chris, I'm thinking back years ago, but this almost feels like even businesses, say on Route 12, we've had one closed for 3 years right now, a restaurant. How does this not apply to that? Because it's a
if there is a
non-conforming and not being used.
non-conformity.
Because that's a
But
conforming
they're
use.
all non-conforming based on current,
There were parking issues.
yeah, they're all, that's what I was just thinking, you were just lit up the entire Route 12. Every one of those businesses are non-conforming, and you want to know a lawsuit, come take my property that I'm paying taxes on and I don't use for 2 years.
Yeah,
Welcome.
but, this, our town bylaw says 1 year, okay?
But-
If the 1 year it's abandoned, then the non-conformity is, we cannot use that.
Even if they're paying taxes on it, you're saying you can take the
State law 2
property?
years.
No, you can't take
No,
the
no, no,
property,
not taking the property.
Just the,
just the use.
You have a restaurant. It's non-conforming because you don't have enough spots. You shut down that restaurant for 3 years.
Yep.
You can't now open a new restaurant in that same spot without conforming to the existing parking spaces that are.
Coming up to
So
zone.
so no, my example is completely right. That restaurant on Route 12 now never gets another restaurant license. They're non-conforming. They've been closed for over 2 years.
Unless they
Well,
change
they
the
could-
number of seats.
Yeah, they could change the number of seats to change the number of parking. I mean, there's different things they could do.
Okay.
That,
I'm thinking through like how
but this,
I
this,
get it.
this bylaw is actually
Out there,
We are extending
favorable
one
to
more
the
year.
businesses because it's going from 1 to 2.
no, I get it. I didn't,
State law is 2 year, town law is 1 year, so we are making it to align with the state law. So this came into,
through the chair, can I ask one more question? I don't know if you know the answer.
I will let
Never-
that-
All right, everyone else go. I'll just
fire chief, go ahead.
Do you have a definition for the term abandonment? What defines when a building is abandoned? Is it failure to pay property tax on it? Is it not in use and sitting idle? Is it not maintaining utility services? Or is it just not physically being utilized? So if you have a property that's sitting idle, is that then different than abandoned? So like how is abandoned defined in that application?
So here is the current bylaw leads. Any lawful buildings or use of a building or premises or part thereof at the time of this bylaw or any amendment thereto is adopted may be continued, although such building or use does not conform to the provisions thereof, provided such a use has not been discontinued for a period of 2 years or more. So our town bylaw says 1 year or more, whereas the state bylaw says 2 year. If the
I don't know if we.
But to
the
answer his question.
Reservoir motel, we had one of the reservoir motel, which has not been used for a long time. The motel was totally closed, and then they came in to build the current Sterling Street apartment condos. So they were based on our town bylaw, 1 year. So all the non-conformity, those things will be thrown out. But whereas this, if they go challenge it in the court, the state law says 2 years. So because of that, we followed, though that was not, they,
I know.
yeah, 1 year.
We
So
still have to
we
answer this
followed
question,
those.
though.
Yeah,
The question
it
is
doesn't
what
answer.
defines abandoned?
Right.
What if the person's paying all their taxes, all their utilities, everything, just not operating as that business?
Yeah, 'cause-
Does that consider abandoned?
It would probably be more like their liquor license wasn't continued or something like that.
So that's why I was asking, so, and
Every side.
if we have 1 year, we've never followed that. because both those buildings were closed for over a year, and were given the right to reopen with no changes.
Which ones?
So,
Both
Finders and
the-
keepers.
Finders and keepers. So also them, and then the gas station. So did the gas station, was it the corner lot here was something else. They didn't reopen for a while. And we gave them a license for, what the hell's it called? Wachusett?
Oh, Honey Farms?
Wachusett Farms, right? In between. So I'm wondering, cause
No,
I,
Honey Farms, I don't think Honey
I don't
Farms
think
was
they
ever
closed for very long.
closed.
They weren't closed very long. They
Not
sold
long?
it, Honey Farm sold it to this
And they
guy and
opened
they
it
No,
reopened.
that was,
but do you get what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I've never seen in this town us apply, how do you do that? I can take your place even if you pay all your taxes,
so
if you're not open for a year?
whether we
No,
like
no,
it
you're
or
not taking
not,
anything.
whether we like it or not, that is the current bylaw, which is aligned with the state bylaw.
We get that, but I
Our town
think-
bylaw is only 1 year,
We-
state bylaw is 2
we
years.
get that, Raj, but I think the question is
What is it?
what triggers the
Abandon.
bylaw? We understand that we're changing from 1 to 2 years, but when, for example, the building that's now for sale that was Finders and then Aries, hasn't been a restaurant for 2 years. Guy's paying his utility bills, paying his taxes, but
He has it up for lease.
The
If
non-
someone steps in.
the non-conforming use it was a restaurant that didn't have enough parking spots.
Okay.
And a
So
business behind it.
now it's no longer operating as a restaurant, and it's been in excess of 2 years. My reading of this is that you have to come into conformance.
Okay.
So it's not abandoned.
The word abandoned, I don't know where that's not here. That's not in the,
Yeah,
in the
okay.
bylaw. It's the use, the use has not been discontinued. So to your point, if the nonconformity was the operation of a restaurant with insufficient parking, that use has been discontinued for more than 2 years.
Then
And so,
they have to get, a new person wants to come in, and they want to have a restaurant, the planning board can say, you need 2 spots per table or whatever, 1 spot per 2, I don't know what it is.
Whatever the-
Yeah,
whatever
or
it
whatever,
is.
yeah.
It just has to conform to zoning.
Oh, we're
Right.
going from 1 to 2, so we're giving them more. We're making it better for them.
Yes,
Yep.
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, the perfect example was the hotel that was next door to me, the Reservoir
We said-
Hotel.
Yeah, he's went through
That was
that.
the perfect example, okay? When they came before the ZBA, they were trying to justify that it had been abandoned and not being used for more than 2 years. Our bylaw said 1, so we had to adjust that because state bylaw supersedes town bylaw, okay? And so we had to change, make it conform, because the people that owned it weren't paying their taxes, nothing. It was just there. The bank owned it, and nothing was being paid, okay? So what happened is that when it came before the planning board, they were the ones that, they're the ones that incorporated this thing. They had just put down 2 years. But if you look at the comments the town council made, they changed it to 2 years or more to coincide with what the state law says. So now, instead of being 1 year, it's 2 years or more. And that, like I said, and Mrs. Padone should kind of remember that because she was the chair of the ZBA when that.
So what,
I wasn't when that was there, actually, it was way before me. But, okay, but thank you for that.
Thank you.
I do have one other question. Is there a way to, I'm fine with the wording, I get what you're trying to do. I'm just nervous, how do we convey that, because we've never actually held this, by the way, ever done this in town. How do we, this is something the building inspector now would have to manage, and everyone would manage, because that restaurant could reopen, they're gonna call you to go and do inspect, no one should show up, because it now has to go through as if it's a brand-new building coming into town, right? The process, that would trigger a complete,
So
do we have to alert the owner of the building?
the section B, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm not a zoning expert, but would they be able to apply for a special permit to continue the nonconformity?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Through the ZBA.
So there's section B, this is the section A, whatever we read in the, whatever the article here.
Let me share
Section B,
it.
changes of non-conforming uses. The Board of Appeals shall hear and decide upon application for the special permit for extension, change, or alterations of the non-conforming structures or uses as provided by under section 6, chapter 40A of the Mass General Law.
Can you minimize that?
I would just like to address Christina's concern.
What concern?
Well, about this idea about who knows what's going on and grandfathering and when somebody triggers and when somebody doesn't trigger. You know, when somebody goes into Ari's and just starts their business up again, you know, what happens, you know? And I think if they're changing the use, it's easy. They're coming into the, planning board to get a change of use, or the building inspector, whoever they talk to first. But we've had some difficulty with zoning and people having two houses on their property in single residence areas, and you actually had to go back to like ancient deeds to find out that the house existed before the zoning was in place and junk like that. I mean, I think it's hard. Like even with the hotel, it was hard to establish when they stopped, you know?
And I'm just wondering, you guys have been on the zoning board the last 4 years, right?
ZBA.
Ari's reopened. It never went for a special permit. I just checked to make sure. So
They had all sorts of trouble.
they never went and requested us, based on your current bylaw, they never got a special permit
They
to
didn't-
reopen that business. So I'm asking you again, how does it get?
They didn't ask for a special permit, they tried to conform. And when they came into the planning board and said, what do we have to do to conform? They said, we just need more spaces out here. And they said, but, okay, we'll line it out here on the sand. And they said, well, you can't line spaces on sand. You gotta pave it in order to have enough spaces. And they talked about some of the spaces were too close to the edge, because what they tried to do was conform. They tried to get their site plan review good.
They tried to work on fixing it, like,
So
under the rules.
that's why they were allowed to reopen while they worked on fixing it? Because what this says is you can't do that. So you need a special permit before you open those doors. What you're telling me now is they were trying to conform, so we gave it to them? I'm trying to figure out what you're
So
saying is
they
happening.
I don't wanna talk about that one. That was a messy one because of the previous owner and what they had other trouble with their lottery system and crap like that.
But that doesn't, I'm talking just about
So
the bylaw.
she asked the planning board, she wanted a 6-month time to fix all the issues. The planning board agreed on that.
So we give her a special
This is
permit?
my- This
They
is
already
my.
had it. They were trying to comply with the permit they already had.
They didn't have a permit. The building went unused. So where would the permit come from? It was a previous owner. That's why I keep asking. You guys aren't actually answering the question here.
I don't think they changed their use then.
But
Can I ask a question?
it doesn't matter.
I thought all we're talking about is changing this from 1 year to 2 years.
I'm just asking how you actually do this.
That's not part of this, part of what we're putting on the warrant.
Yeah.
I'm told the only thing that's being changed is from 1 year, because the town has it under 1 year, and the state has it under 2. The only change is 2 or more. That's the only change.
Yeah.
All of these other questions
Everything
are
stays
not
the same.
I guess it could be a question, but it's not a question for this warrant article.
I'm totally fine with that.
Okay.
If that's what I'm being told here and everything I read,
that's-
all it's being changed from 1 year to 2.
1 year to
It could be
2,
very
alignment.
confusing, the bylaw or the,
No, that was my
zoning
only question,
bylaw.
how it triggers it, but
right, but that's,
fine.
the only change this warrant article 22 is making is from 1 year to 2 or more.
No motion, right? Is there a motion?
Didn't we already? Article 22, I make a motion to add Article 22 to the warrant.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Article 23, authorization to amend the zoning bylaw.
There you go.
This one is where the district boundary lines divided a lot in a single or joint ownership at the time such line is adopted. The regulation for the less restrictive portion of such lot shall not extend into the more restrictive portion.
I'll make a motion to approve, include Article 23.
Second. Let's just get this one over before Christina starts talking again.
I don't respect the rudeness, especially the way you behave at the board table.
All of these zoning bylaw articles, I don't have enough information in front of me on what the changes
None
are.
of us do.
So I guess we should just let the zoning board make the motion to put these on and let town meeting vote, because
Yeah.
all we're doing is putting them on.
Okay, if I could just say, this is the planning board. The planning board does all the zoning bylaws.
Okay,
So
planning
this is
board.
what they, okay, basically what this is entailing is because the ZBA ran into a problem with a developer, not Mr. Ali, okay? Ran into a problem, we disapproved the petitioner's request because he wanted to go 30 feet into another zone, which at the
So-
time, the new bylaw, the old bylaw states that. We disapproved it. We went to land court voted for us. The developer took it to another court, and the court ruled against us. So that's the main reason that this is being changed. That's the
Thank
way
you.
I see it.
Thank you. We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Article 24, authorization to amend the zoning bylaw. This is just to make the standard of the plans and other things the planning board needs for the site plan review. So instead of 15, 20 copies of the hard copies, only 8 copies of the site plan. And the drawing scale is 1 inch is equal to 40.
So moved Article 24.
Second.
We have
I'd just
motion-
say, I would suggest that all of these be presented by not by us, by the ZBA.
Yes.
Planning.
Because,
Planning
the
board.
planning board, I'm sorry, the planning board, because
Thank you.
all we're doing is voting to put them on the warrant.
Yep.
Thank you. We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Authorization to amend the zoning bylaw.
I make a motion to add Article 25.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Article 26, authorization to amend the zoning bylaw. This bylaw talked about the habitable building per lot. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to include 26 and 27.
Second.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, on number 26, the bylaw committee makes no recommendation because we couldn't decide on it. The vote was 2-2, so we're not making any recommendation.
Okay, so I did talk about this, and, on the town floor,
Yeah,
town meeting floor, the planning board can
okay,
make a decision to pass over,
okay.
okay, if they want to.
Okay, and then on Article 27, we voted 3-1 not to have the town.
Same thing for that too, same thing for
I
that.
just wanted the Board of Selectmen to
Yeah,
know.
agree.
That doesn't make sense. So
On the
these were
floor.
voted against by the planning board, but there are
But-
changes to the zoning bylaw,
Bylaw committee.
and
So, the planning board made this bylaws, changes to this bylaws, whereas bylaw committee
voted.
Bylaw
Oh,
committee
yeah.
voted
The
not,
planning board voted to move them forward.
either
Okay.
recommend or not to recommend.
okay,
So when they are not recommending, they can, the bylaw committee can speak against it, if they want to. So this is up to the planning board, they can withdraw it, or they can move forward with this. Okay, so, there is a motion and second, any further discussion? Hearing none,
26, 27.
Yeah. Do you want more discussion? Do you want
Yeah, if you
explanation?
want. I don't know.
If nobody cares, we can just let it go.
okay,
And
all in favor?
I'd like to know,
Aye.
hopefully on town meeting floor, we get more explanation.
Oh, well, I
We're
mean.
just
they're
putting them
both-
on for that committee.
They're both quickies. I can do it if you want me to.
Go ahead.
Article 26 is trying to keep single residence, or one building per lot, even if it's multi-unit. So it doesn't look like there's two houses on one piece of property. And they're trying to do that by not allowing a buried foundation or something else that is not visible connecting the two structures that make it interpreted as one building, but actually look like two buildings. So we're just trying to clear that up because we're trying to make it fair all around.
But if it's current and it's in place, it doesn't, they can't, you
No,
don't
it
have to go
isn't.
knocking
It's
it
not in
down.
current. The
Yeah,
current
not
bylaw
using
says
there.
only one habitable building shall be placed on any one lot. That is the current bylaw.
Oh, but nothing's changing. We're not gonna go find all these buildings that we don't like or something. I mean,
So what's the change? You just read
Yeah.
what's here.
it's clarifying, it's probably, I don't have the original in front of me, but a trellis buried foundation or similar connection of two buildings shall not constitute a single habitable building, I believe is the change.
So it was the interpretation of the building inspector. So this current building inspector interpret. So even though even though there are two buildings in the same lot, if you connect the two buildings with a foundation, it is still considered as a one habitable building.
Again, I just had these because
Anyway.
all I'm seeing is what they want to add. I'm not seeing what was in it before.
What the planning board is trying to do is make it so that everybody's playing to the same rules, which is one building per lot, rather than trying to make it look like two buildings per lot by having an underground connection.
So we'll leave it to the planning board and on
And
the
then-
town meeting floor, yeah.
And then Article 27 explanation?
I don't need one.
Again,
I
you can tell us
can't-
what the, I just don't know what the change is. I just see, that's what it's going to say now under G, but I don't know what it currently says under G. So I guess if we don't have all this information, we just,
No, I
We
think the
just
change is the,
There's a whole bunch of changes.
negative impact to surrounding, complies with. I can't find where the words that changed.
Was it a
Okay.
second motion?
Okay, so Mark, we have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Article 28, authorization to appropriate funds from the community preservation
make a
fund
motion to add
revenues.
Article 28 to the warrant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Article 29, community preservation funds, fund project.
I make a motion to add Article 29 to the warrant.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So we are done with this,
Endorsing articles, any articles we want to endorse.
any, let's go to the
Which are
endorsement.
things where we endorse,
Yeah.
what kind of things?
Anything you think the board should,
Is there any article anyone wants to endorse?
question from the audience.
You have a question?
Yes. On Article 11, the senior meals program / council on aging, is that a new revolving fund?
Oh, where the $50,000, are you asking if that's going to be deposited?
No, well,
I will-
it's the one before it, it's not, and it's highlighted.
There, hold on. I will let town administrator to answer.
I'm just asking a question.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, in May of 2022, there was a addition, like we're doing, so there's two revolving changes. One is an amendment to an existing revolving fund. One is a new revolving fund. In May of 2022, just like that amendment of the one for the DPW, there was an amendment to the Council on Aging revolving fund. So the motion under this article is going to be to rescind the vote taken at the May 14th, 2022 town meeting where that was added into the general Council on Aging revolving fund, and to instead create a standalone article for the senior food program. This was at the request of the senior center director. She wants one revolving fund for the senior food program alone, and then a separate revolving fund for all the other council on aging items. So that there is a clear division between the funds and where they're allowed to go.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, just confusing, but, you know,
So instead of having a council on aging revolving fund that's a catch-all bucket
right,
for everything COA related,
right.
which is the way it is now since the May 2022 town meeting, we're undoing that and creating a separate bucket for only the senior meals program.
Okay, so there'll be, the senior center will have two revolving funds.
Correct.
One for the council of aging and one for the senior, for the meals.
Correct.
And it also changes something to do with the recycling.
Right, that's the other, yeah.
Okay.
The other one.
That's fine, thank you.
Yeah.
Any article comes up?
I'll make the motion to endorse Article 9, the budget, and Article 29, the Community Preservation Park Project Fund.
Second.
That's all only two.
What's 29, what's gonna be in that?
That's the park-
CPC fund.
CPC Park Project article? Pride Park. 218, Jen?
227 something,
For the
318, rather?
And re-endorse.
328.
318. Yeah, 318.
Is part of that to re-endorse the other one? The old vote?
That'll just be part of the discussion.
Okay.
Second,
I already second.
okay, third.
You can cross me out.
Oh, man, okay, sorry. Any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor to
Aye.
add Article 9 and 29?
endorse.
Endorse.
To endorse.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
we don't usually endorse the OPEB or the money going into capital and things like that.
Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't.
That's fine. That works for me.
So, any other articles? Hearing none, let's move on to the assigning the articles. Article 1. It's a two big article, so I will take it.
Didn't I see a printout?
Yeah, I included a draft, where really I just started with
That's fine,
chair
it
and
works.
rotated.
Okay, I have it.
That works. Oh, you have it?
Article 2, Chris.
Okay.
Article 3, Mark. Article 4, Pat. Article 5, Christina. And Article 6, it's me. Article 7, Chris. Article 8, Mark. Article 9, Pat. So now we need to decide Article 10.
Who usually makes those motions? The capital?
So-
CIB usually makes that motion.
Okay, so,
CAB.
Yeah, they usually make the motion on that.
Okay, then Article 11 should be, we need to change it to Christina.
it'll all work out, let's just,
Yeah, I'd
Keep
say
it-
you
let's
could just
keep it
leave
the
it like it is. I don't, it's fine.
You don't want it?
I can do it, but then you have to shuffle everyone else,
Okay.
you know?
Doesn't make it.
I know, I
Okay.
was like, it doesn't
I
matter.
think it's gonna all change under planning board and all the other ones anyway, so we're all gonna,
Okay,
Oh,
Article
alright.
11, it's me. Article 12, Chris. Article 13, Mark. Article 14, Pat. Article 15, Christina. Article 16, Roger, Board of Assessor.
did the Board of Assessors ever make the motion?
Well,
No.
this is the article that they requested, so I didn't know if you wanted them to make.
I don't
the-
know if I've ever seen,
I
I've
never seen him coming to
never
this.
seen him at the meeting.
If they want to make a motion, that's fine. with me.
Okay,
So Raj, unless they come and say we wanna make it.
Yeah, sure. Article 17, Chris. Article 18, Mark our personal board. Do they make
Does
motions?
the personnel board wanna make those motions?
it's, I haven't talked to the personnel board, it's just that they're putting this article forward, so.
Historically, we've made, for most of them, we've made the motion, and then the personnel board gives the,
Speaks to it?
Yeah.
Okay,
So then in that case, Mark. Article 19, Pat.
so, Mr. Chairman, now we're gonna move the numbers because,
No, we are not moved.
well, 19 is
19's
off,
off.
so 20 becomes 19.
Okay,
So just keep it the same, 19,
so
20, 21,
19 is, we are.
Christina?
not putting in.
Christina is
And then the
19.
next one is 19. Earlier 20 is Christina. And then 20 Raj, Oh, Disability Commission, they will.
I was gonna say, they normally do.
Definitely.
Well, again, why would, I mean, the Disability Commission, just like the Personnel Board, the Disability Commission can speak to the article, but we usually,
Make the motion.
as part of just running the meetings, and we have the signatures there, it's just, and then,
I'm happy to make the motion. So 21, Chris?
Well, I think the,
Yeah, they got a
The planning
planning board,
board's-
gotta do it.
I think they should move their own. I mean, that's a board that's a little different than, I mean, these,
I'm just saying what
planning
we've,
board, I
what
mean,
we've done historically. I have no issue saying planning board move all these articles.
I think they should, I
have
think the
no issue
planning board
whatsoever.
should move Articles 21,
Okay.
the new Article 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26.
Fine by me?
Yeah.
Is that
That
okay
works.
with everyone?
The 26th.
And then the CPC, they always move their own.
They,
CPC.
so
always
CPC always moves the
Or we'll put that.
spend article.
The number 28,
But
old
the
29.
contribution,
The putting money into the different pots, that's usually one of us.
Okay, so 20, that's 28, the new 27?
The new 27, yes.
27
So
will be
I think
Mark.
that should be Pat.
Yeah,
Okay.
And then the next one is CPC.
love it.
is that clear?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before you move on, I just don't want to lose sight of the email that I had sent to the board earlier today about the potential of an additional warrant article. So on April 2nd, I submitted a memorandum to the board, which I have printed out in front of you, that listed all the warrant articles that were submitted for the town meeting. And on that was an appropriation to fund an elderly community service program. I stated that it was a standard article, but based on a 2021 IGR release from the Division of Local Services, we needed to change how the program actually runs, because the funds needed to be paid out of overlay, not an appropriation at town meeting. So I stated that it was a placeholder from the time being. What came to my attention today is that the town never adopted Mass General Law 59, Section 5K, which is a local acceptance statute allowing the town to have a senior tax write-off program. So there was the assumption, because we had a senior tax write-off program, that this had been adopted. Somehow that was overlooked. So the original plan was to totally omit any mention of the senior tax write-off program from the warrant, because the funding source doesn't need to be appropriated at town meeting. It becomes a policy of the select board, the administration of the program. I actually was pegging May 17th as the meeting that the select board talked about a new policy. But without including this adoption of 59 Section 5K, we won't be able to have a senior tax write-off program until the earliest of approval at fall town meeting and subsequent approval by the Attorney General. So it could be that we have almost nearly a year of no senior tax write-off program, which typically runs on the fiscal year.
I make a motion to add that article as 29 to the warrant
I
Second.
and give it to Mark.
Okay.
Does
Yeah.
this,
And give it to Mark?
Give it to Mark since he was
Okay.
the
does
last one.
does this mean we now have to
Second that
wait for the 3 months or so for the Attorney General to approve this to continue this program, or do we just keep doing what we've been doing?
We can talk about that on May 17th.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We'll sign it.
That will be Mark.
Yep.
motion.
Jen, Article 14, it looks like this was copied from the previous article. It
So
says
we will-
OPEB instead of municipal.
Oh,
buildings.
on the draft motions? Okay, yeah.
We can correct it, Mark.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Motion.
Okay, so we are done with all these things, the same motions, okay. Next item on the agenda,
Mr. Chairman, you still need to vote to post the warrant, subject to, sign the warrant. My suggestion would be that the board signs the warrant this evening,
okay,
so that we get your signatures. We'll have council look at this one more time with those changes as discussed and voted tonight, but I would like a vote.
okay.
To go forward.
Vote to approve and post the warrants.
So moved. Second.
So we have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So the next item on the agenda, consider granting the police chief with the authority to assign police officers at the polling location requested by the town clerk.
So moved.
Second.
We have motion and second, all in favor? Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'm just wondering why, I forget, why does this have to be why, the police chief can assign people, we don't have to vote to say where he assigns people.
The state made a change to the state law that stated that for election purposes, for police at polling locations, that is now under the charge of the select board. So this vote is basically delegating your duties back to where they have always been.
Is this gonna be a yearly thing, or is this just an in perpetuity vote?
Good question. You could certainly say to perpetuity.
It should be in perpetuity.
You want to change the?
Is it a bylaw then?
No, it's a state law.
No, what we're doing is, would we make
No,
a
you're just
motion?
delegating your authority.
Oh, okay, and you can do
I
that.
think we should make it forever,
Yeah.
not I withdraw my motion.
I second.
Okay.
Okay. Is that enough?
Now,
Oh, you want me to make the motion now?
Thank you.
I make a motion that we grant the chief of police the authority to assign officers at polling locations for all future elections.
Second.
We have motion and second, any further
Until the law
discussion?
changes again and we
Yeah.
change it. Aye.
All in
Aye.
favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approving letter of appreciation to the West Boylston LLC
So
for
moved.
renovations at
Second.
201 West Boylston Street. We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
And you made any changes that were in it, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll all, is it in the signature file? Yep.
Consider signing a citation for Cardinal Catering and Beverages on the occasion of their grand opening.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Is any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So maybe before going to the financial budget discussion, we have one more appointment and resignations. Accept the resignation of Alice Broad H as a food service kitchen manager for the Council on Aging.
So moved.
Second.
This is the chef that was hired at
Just
the,
to acknowledge the resignation. Yes, it was the chef that was recently hired.
So motion or acknowledge?
It's just acknowledged.
that worked out, so it didn't work out, or what was the issue, I guess? Do we know if there was no issue, they just decided it wasn't the
I
right
don't want
job?
to discuss it in an open meeting, but I'm happy to have an offline discussion about it with any board member.
So what's the next steps for us?
Reposting, she's reposting it internally again, and then we'll go post it. But she has agreed to stay through the end of May. Originally, her termination, or her exit date was prior to that, so there was already a food luncheon program scheduled for the entirety of May. So has agreed to stay on for that. It's likely that June, we'll see a lapse again, that there just won't be somebody in the queue in time.
Is it safe to assume that she didn't give any reasons for the resignation?
I'm happy to discuss that offline with any select board member.
Okay, thank you.
I would just ask you, give us an update, the whole board, instead of each board member asking.
I can't discuss it in an open meeting.
I'm saying, just send it to us.
Sure,
Yeah,
me.
that's fine.
sure.
Thank you. That's the last item. FY 2024 financial budget.
No, there's another.
What
We
about
have
the
a
Ali?
person waiting.
Mr. Ali?
Oh, yeah.
He just likes the meetings.
Oh. I crossed off these things, so that's why. Sorry. Consider approving the memorandum of agreement with the Crescent Builders LLC for a proposed local initiative program development located at 73 West Boylston Street. Forward. I will get the town administrator to take.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So at a previous meeting, the select board had generally agreed to entering into this memorandum of agreement with Mr. Ali of Crescent Builders. there was some discussion of having completion to a certain degree for 2 additional projects, which would be Newha Circle and Westland Circle. The planning board has met, I think, 2 or 3 times since that to develop punch lists that could be attached to this agreement as Exhibits A and Exhibit B that are attached to the end of the agreement. Mr. Ali has seen this agreement and is, I believe, in agreement with everything stated. So aside from the traditional boilerplate language, the few highlights that are not boilerplate, are the developer agrees to pay a $50,000 donation fee to the town for upgrades at Pride Park, and that's within 30 days of the issuance of a comprehensive permit by the ZBA. So based on timeline, it's very likely that this will be probably our first money for Pride Park Phase 2. So thank you, Mr. Ali, for that generous contribution. Then the developer also agrees that prior to applying to the ZBA for a comprehensive permit, that the items on Exhibits A and Exhibits B will be completed.
I think I have a discussion on that. The these items will be completed before I apply for a ZBA permit, you're saying, right?
Correct.
That's fine.
Not, so you can start the process with the state.
Process, yeah.
Yeah, you can start the process with the state. It's just before,
Yeah.
and I will say that, as I understand, he is actively working on completing these outstanding punch list items. And then the rest of the language is pretty standard. So by entering in this memorandum of agreement, those are 2 items that the ZBA cannot interfere with. They can certainly put all sorts of additional types of development items onto the project, but this will allow the project to go forward.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I have further discussion on this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so on Exhibit A, when I was looking over it for planning board, I also changed them. Some of them are sort of non-specific, they're not non-specific, but things like, if he wanted to fix the identified issue, we would recommend, and I just took out all those and put them into, to fix this, do this. I mean, we can, it was what I did when I was on the planning board thing, but I guess we can throw that away. I just was gonna submit it for the minutes. Then, so that was just to make it so it was more specific. And then, in support of this, we can do this afterwards. It's regarding a motion or something like that to request the planning board to revise the certificate of approval on Westland Circle, certificate of approval of a definitive subdivision plan and stormwater management permit for Westland Circle extension issued May 15, 2018, to replace condition 2 with the following statement. The town intends to accept the installed sewer system infrastructure from the existing manhole connection intersection Westland Circle and David's Road to the limits of the proposed town right-of-way. All sewer infrastructure, pumps, pipe, etc., on the private property remain the responsibility of the property owner. And this change is based on Board of Selectmen, sewer commissioner meetings, and their minutes on 7/21/21, 8/18/21, 4/6/22, and an email from the DPW to the planning board saying the same things. But we have to change the permit, otherwise he can't make the homeowners association document because it's required to be in the homeowners association document.
Mark, but the DPW director was here, and the select board did agreed to take over the sewer once the,
In 3 meetings, in fact.
yeah, so when the town accepted the road. So why do we need to, you are saying, this,
In order
the
for the
planning
town-
board has to make these changes in order for him to go further.
Otherwise, otherwise it's just a little bit
Hard to make.
catch-22, because he doesn't actually have to make the homeowners association support the sewer because the town's gonna take it over. Yet the letter was making sure that the homeowners association supported the sewer because when it was originally written, that's what the DPW wanted us to do.
So
So I
what
think we
the
have to take
select
that
board
out.
has to do today? We have,
You
we don't have to
asking
do
that to
anything.
be added to the memorandum?
No, this is what I'm saying, we could do it right afterwards, but we have to tell the planning board to do this. You've told them to do it before, and they haven't done it.
I think all that's on the agenda tonight is the memorandum of agreement. If we want to do something new, that would have to be on a future.
It's not something new, it allows him to achieve the memorandum of agreement. I don't think he can actually do it if we don't do this.
So for the edification of all, Mr. Chairman, if through you, what on the Exhibit B punch list would he not be able to accomplish?
This is the,
The homeowners association.
it's condition 2. Condition 2 says that he's got to have, the homeowner association fully responsible for the,
No, I don't
Condition
see-
2 of,
No, it's not.
of the planning board letter. Oh, the planning board permit.
Exhibit B.
I'm looking at Exhibit A and
Yeah, I
B,
don't know
what are
you're
you,
reading.
B.
okay?
Oh,
It's not
no, no,
number 2.
This is, on Exhibit B,
B what?
hold on, it's, if you're coming down to comments from planning board meeting held 4/12/2023,
No,
Yeah,
What-
last
Yeah.
page, okay.
yeah,
I think it's, question, I don't know which one it is. One of them talks about the sewer. Did not have HOA including the deeds, nor put the money in the fund, purchase this, which must be a proponent. It's,
I don't see.
it was driven from those, but I don't remember which one, or I can't find which one it is.
Yes, after receiving the as-built plan.
through the chair, can I ask a
Yeah,
question?
sure, go ahead.
Just to make sure I understand, this has gone through your legal, your engineering, our legal department, ZBA.
our legal didn't look at the exhibits, those just came from the planning
Okay.
board.
But, so the
They
planning
wouldn't-
board, ZBA, I'm guessing,
Not
no?
the ZBA, just the planning board. The
Okay,
planning board was charged with drafting the exhibits.
okay. But I also see like the water department, our fire chiefs in here, that like, it all seems like it's
They-
gone through everyone, so I'm just confused on what we're
So-
changing.
One of the condition is, the planning board is, one of the condition is, that he has to set up a homeowners association.
Yeah,
So if he has to set up a homeowners association, the current site plan review from the planning board says the sewer is, for the developer has to take care of the sewer. Whereas-
Association. The association has to take.
Yeah, they have to, but the homeowners association, they do not want to take care of the sewer. So whereas it came before the same select board, DPW director was here, and then, the
Voted to
select board
accept it.
voted, yeah, we accepted the sewer.
Didn't
So,
accept it. Suggested we accept it when we accept the road.
so that should be enough, the planning board can make changes.
so I don't see a note here where the planning board, though, is saying to us what you're saying. Like, it seems like their comments are above, and this is what they've put together, but you're saying there's something different that the planning board's saying, but it's not in what they proposed here, so I don't know what to follow here. Are you saying something different than what's here? Because this says, comments from planning board held on this meeting on this date, and it goes on each one. So I'm sorry, Mark, I'm just
This
trying
is
to
a-
follow.
I
This
just,
is an additional.
then I guess it's not there. I mean, if you want to not do it, that's fine. I'll
But
address it with the planning board.
at certain stage, we may have to do it, but not for this.
Right
I
now,
just
the
don't see
agenda
it.
item
I
is
guess I don't see it, I'm
consider
sorry.
approving the MOA with
So-
Crescent Builders. That's all it is.
Can
Go ahead.
I've got major issues with the exhibits. Number one, on Exhibit A. If he wanted to fix the issue, we would recommend removing the section of sidewalk that is perpendicular. No, I am not voting for this tonight. This does not say, Mr. Ali is going to say, I don't want to fix that issue. This does not say what he has to do. This is a list of things that are deficient. These exhibits need to be written and approved by our town council, because Mr. Ali will look at this and say, non-compliant driveway aprons at house number 4, 6, 9, and 10. Doesn't say I have to fix them.
It still needs to derive from the planning board. So this is, right, so town council can look at them, but the planning board still needs to come to agreement. So-
I am not voting to approve this with these exhibits the way they're written, because these exhibits do not state the course of action that Mr. Early has to take. It does not,
So I will say, that I think that just in general, I think that this is, and we can't afford it, but having a town planner, I'm just flagging this is a reason to have a town planner. But the board, so the Newha and Westland coming into this MOA was what the board wanted to do in order to proceed. The planning board has taken quite some time so far to come up with these. I'm just stating, in my conversations with Mr. Ali, he's getting anxious. He can speak for himself. He could have gone to the state and we wouldn't have any progress whatsoever on Newha and Westland, nor his other agreement, which is fine. If this has to go back to the planning board for further consideration, and, because I agree with you.
Yep.
It's not very clear. I don't know how long.
But having said that, but Mr. Ali did agree all the punch list item to be fixed. Not only that, even if he did not fix any punch list, or if he did miss some of those things, the town is not going to take it when it comes to the road acceptance.
that doesn't help the residents that live on that road. He built these projects and walked away from them and just said, I'm not finishing these projects.
No, he's
No,
agreed to
let me
finish it.
speak for a second
Sure,
here.
go ahead.
He has a track record in this town. He does not finish his projects. And we're gonna grant him this special permit, and he's gonna look at this exhibit A and B, and he's not gonna have to do a thing. He can say, yeah, I'm gonna do it. He's not legally bound to do these things. And if he's not legally bound to do it, his track record is, he's not doing it. That's a fact. And I am not voting for this because this is not a punch list of things that have to be done. And this needs to be written as a punch list of things to be done. Not, we recommend, this is broken. It has to spell out in exacting detail exactly what needs to happen on each of these projects to complete them the way they should have been done without these exhibits. So,
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Right, here's that document. I rewrote them doing exactly what you just said. I just didn't do it timely.
No, you
Yeah, I was
cannot
gonna say, but
introduce
you're on
now.
the planning board, like, I'm
You cannot
confused
introduce now.
how this went through 4 meetings of the planning board, and this is what came out, and then a member of the planning board drafted different ones and brought it to this, like, what happened?
He did not draft the
He
same.
just showed them to us, so yes, he did.
I was halfway done with it when most of the people on the planning board had already reviewed it, so I didn't want to slow that down because the urgency was expressed to the planning board also.
But then you drop it on the select board table, how do we,
So,
we don't have a
Mark,
way to act
so-
on it.
okay. Mark,
I mean, it's substantially, I don't think it changes it much, except makes it specific instead of random.
so it has to go back to
know
the
what needs to
planning board,
happen.
yes.
But it does not legally bind him to do these things, and that's, so he won't do it.
So, do we have the motion and second, right? Do?
No.
No.
Can we just say that he must complete everything?
The way
Make
that
those,
it's written.
complete those, Pat? Can we just say complete those, not exhibits? Just say,
I mean,
No option, say something along the lines like,
Fix both the Nova and Nova Circle and Westland Circle.
that the items on that list are not optional, they're required to be completed.
not only the items on this
Not
list,
only-
everything.
Everything on.
what does non-compliant driveway aprons cross slope over 2% at houses 4, 6, 9, and 10? What's the requirement?
That's my confusion on what the planning board put forth. I don't understand how they would bring this.
He wants to answer
Here.
it.
Yeah, he's,
Actually, this was discussed in the select board meeting, and Mr. Rich was telling that I had to satisfy all the requirements of the planning board on this project before I go forward to ZBA. That would have been, I have accepted what all planning board has told, I have accepted it. If you want to include that way, instead of going with the planning board requirement, I had to meet all the requirement for the planning board for these 2 projects. But we had a situation of getting accepted by the town warrant. I had to prepare it for a warrant, and it's up to the town meeting to accept the roads. because I don't have control over it. Mr. Rucho had that question on that meeting. That would be, the ideal thing is, whatever the planning board requirement is, I had to meet the planning board requirement. And I had several meetings with the planning board and the consulting engineers on both the projects. Noha Circle, just paving is waiting because we've been waiting for 2 weeks. The paving part is not done. Rest of all the stuff is done, except paving and cleaning up the catch basins. And Westland Circle, we are planning to finish up a little bit of landscaping and some punch work and trying to straighten out the walkway situation. Other than that, most of the stuff is done in Westland Circle. I've been working diligently on that part. Since the select board doesn't know, there was an issue with Noha Circle, why it was abandoned, because there was an illegal structure built on an easement. And it took me 3 years to straighten out that one.
So he has to satisfy the planning board requirement.
Right.
Doesn't matter. So
Before I
unless
go
he
to board.
requires,
Just add that to it.
yes,
Add that to
yeah.
it.
So this saying non-compliant driveway aprons on these 4 things, if the planning board says that's still not compliant, he cannot apply.
That's what I.
That's paving part.
Why
But
don't
also-
we can add that to number 4, just say that.
Not only that, our DPW director has to accept it. All the conditions, all the road conditions, otherwise it's not going
Well,
to be on the.
this is
I-
beyond road conditions, though. I mean, it's a lot of road stuff, but I mean, this is non-compliant driveway aprons that's on a person's personal property. That DPW director doesn't
No.
have to accept that.
The aprons are in
In the right of way.
in the public way.
Public way there.
And that's the ADA
ADA
requirement
requirement.
of the slope of the driveway, so that if you were rolling along in a wheelchair or something like that, it doesn't tip significantly.
So you have to, you have to fix all those.
I know, it's been already discussed. I had 3 meetings with VHP, and the work had been scheduled for last week, but we couldn't do it because of the rain. It's been scheduled for next Tuesday, for now, weather permitting.
I'm comfortable with it, as long as it's
Maybe
all
just-
up to the standards of the, we can add that to number 4 if we want
I was
to.
gonna say, would we just add as like a sweeping statement?
Can add to
All-
the letter.
MOA, to the MOA.
Yeah. Add all items as required to be completed with sign off by
Planning board.
planning board and/or town appointed person, like the DPW or fire, like, that covers everything
Everything.
here, and then,
So I have a
That's not in
question.
there.
okay,
So if we added, I hear what you're saying, is to add to the end of 4, basically, in all other requirements of the planning board.
yep,
Planning board and other boards.
And
Other board as well
Well-
as it has to be acceptable by the town.
so we had never talked about that it had to be accepted by the town before he applied. This is all what has to be done before he can apply for a comprehensive permit.
Correct.
We had not talked about that it had to be accepted by the town before. the
Accepted by the
comprehensive
town is
Right.
it's 6 months down the road. That's unreasonable.
So, let's say we have a new planning board, we have an election coming up, right? We have a new planning board, folks that are not familiar with this. If there are additional things that have not been discussed in the past, that's is my concern. If there's additional things that have not been discussed in the past, a new kind of, the goalpost changed and a new set of requirements are placed on him because the planning board has required it. How does that come into play if it's in all other requirements of the planning board?
so,
Up to
So
the
then,
state.
then, it will not be accepted by the town. So the project is still pending.
Right, but this is about the MOA, not about acceptance from the town.
Okay.
Raj, through the chair, my thought is, just like everything else, this is based on a date. ADA could change next week, and zoning, we can't then say, you know what, we know we all signed this, we agreed to it, we're not gonna do it, we're gonna do something completely different. So say, as of this date, this is what's on the list. This list is not able to be edited or changed past this point, because we could all be different people. It doesn't matter. Let's stick to this legal document that's joining us. Because I agree with you, first, just reading this,
I mean,
they could come up with 6 more things, and we'll be here.
however we word it, but as long as he doesn't fix something and it causes something else. So, I mean, I don't know if that could happen, but he fixes some of these things, the one Pat says, but then something else becomes an issue. So I think the board's just, we need to let him go forward.
Through the chair?
Go ahead.
I think both of the exhibits kind of catch everything you want to do, because they both say he's got to submit all the stuff required for road acceptance. He doesn't have to get the road acceptance, but he has to submit everything, which is everything that the town needs. I mean, that's an established policy
So
before.
that itself is, the project is complete. So when it goes to the town meeting, whenever, when the recommendation from the planning board and the recommendation from the DPW director, the town meeting normally accepts the road. They will vote to accept. Okay.
We have a motion and a second, I think?
I was writing what I would
So-
say, sorry.
Can I do
Um,
another?
Go ahead.
Hold on.
No,
Go ahead.
he's got another thing he wants to add
Go
about
ahead,
this.
Mark.
All right, so that was Westland. We talked about the select board, or the planning board perhaps, or maybe not being told to adjust that permit to not require the HOA to have it, just to make it easier on them to
So
complete.
that we could change, that the planning board can make changes, right? So based on the meeting minutes, the meeting minutes says,
Yeah, no, I think we just have to, I mean, like, okay, true,
Yeah.
we just got them to do it, or I'll
We
tell them
have
to do
time,
it,
yeah.
we'll see if they do it.
okay,
And that makes it so that he can actually bring forward his road acceptance, because he doesn't have conflicting information, in his road acceptance documents, whatever. The other one is the walking path. Walking path is called out in condition 15, and the text says, "The water district has approved connection of the proposed subdivision to the municipal water system with a loop to the existing line in Lawrence Street, above which will be a public pedestrian bicycle path. A deeded easement shall be provided to the water district and the town to allow public pedestrian passage. The applicant and homeowners association shall maintain the pathway in a safe and attractive manner in perpetuity." This has not been.
again, let the planning board deals with this.
If I could just say again, the only thing on our agenda tonight is to vote on the MOA. If we're starting to talk about all this, residents from that street might want to come here and give input. That's not on the agenda. All that's on is to vote on the MOA.
The exhibits are part of the MOA.
Yeah, right, but just to vote up or down, not,
No, you can certainly amend the exhibits,
we can't,
just like you amended warrant articles
yeah, but we
earlier.
can't, we're not the board that's gonna say how it's gonna get fixed and things like that. I think just saying that the ZBA has to, the planning board, whoever it is,
Planning
has to sign off on this.
Planning board has to sign off on it.
And
Let the planning board deals with that, the path.
I think it's a bigger problem.
Yeah, but let them deal with the path.
I don't think they can.
I have no answer for that.
We can't vote on the MOA because we don't think that they can work on it.
I just don't want to push it forward where it's an impossible situation for Ali.
That's between him
But
and the
we
planning
cannot make a
board.
decision for
Do
that.
you have an issue with that section?
There is the issue, either the homeowners have to agree to put it in association, or town has to, or planning board can take it off from the list.
Those are the three choices. That's what I have written down here.
Planning board can
But
change it.
if that never gets resolved, this doesn't move forward.
Yeah,
Exactly. So
Okay.
that's why I was bringing it up here. But if we don't want to bring it up here.
either way, it's in the
That's not our
approvals.
board's
It's
purview.
not our problem.
It's in the approvals, basically, planning
Doesn't
board
get some
approvals.
agreement with that, then
I had to come up with an agreement with
The
planning board.
agreement that we establish in the MOA, that's separate from the planning board, and lets the planning board, or him, or whoever you want to say, off the hook.
we say what he should do in that area? The one you just read?
What are your recommendations?
So I'm saying, the same three that you just said. The BOS needs to decide what is an acceptable outcome for the walking path. Can we remove the public access and leave it as an easement for the water district? That's easy. The water district will do what they gotta do, dig holes or whatever. But put back the stone that prevents access when they're done. That's one thing we could do. Can we remove the strip of property from the plot and donate it to the town and treat it like the rail trail for liability? So it's a walking path, and it's just like somebody trips and falls, it's like they tripped and fell on the rail trail. But it's a town piece of property. Or, any other ideas? I mean, I don't know what we can do here, but
So
right
maybe
now,
I
it's
think,
not an
this
achievable
is for
time.
another day.
This is,
That's the
Maybe
planning,
another-
this is a planning board discussion, not a,
planning
Planning board
board.
can't say those things.
Okay, I would say that if the planning board and him agree that there's no issue here, we can need to go in front of the board, then we can put it on the agenda, we can let people come and
Further
give
discussion.
input. But I don't think it changes the MOA.
Yeah.
It's on there, it's on the list, like you say, it might not, but they're gonna have to try to work it out, or come forward with us. Come forward, back to the board.
Okay.
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman. You stated that on the exhibits, it stated that in all items required for in advance of street acceptance. I know these are the items
Yes, agreed.
required for street acceptance,
And
but
also, you
those,
know,
but
And
those,
also, Mr. Ali also agreed to fix those issues.
Yes.
No, but in,
Though-
okay, so if you look in
One
exhibit,
second, I wanted to just finish her sentence.
Go ahead.
those specific words I do not see. All items required for street acceptance.
So that can go under number
Right,
4.
I don't see those words, so. Not the street acceptance itself, but what is required of,
Required.
for street acceptance.
I just gotta find, I have my
Exhibit
markup
B
copy.
3, the very last sentence is follow all street acceptance procedures to have street acceptance
That's online.
be on the October 2023 town meeting warrant.
And A has it in there too, but I,
But that's just for exhibit, these are for Westland, not for New High.
no, but in the Newha one, do you have the original? Can I have a copy? It's somewhere it talks about the fact that he's already submitted one copy of a street acceptance
Yes.
for Newha. And since then, you're redoing the paving, so it kind of has to be revisited. And,
It just
well, there's gonna be a
fixing
new
the
as-built.
payment, that's all. We're not changing.
Yeah,
any-
it says it in both. It says it in
Does, okay.
Exhibit B, follow all street acceptance procedures to have
thank
street
you. That's what I
acceptance
wasn't seeing.
beyond,
Thank you.
yeah, it's in both.
Thank you.
Okay. So, do we need to make any corrections on that MOA?
No.
It's
I
clearly
wrote a
says-
motion, but I'm just questioning the motion because I have a planning board member and there were 4 planning board meetings and this isn't even in the notes that I see came back through, so I'm kind of at a loss and like the disconnect there and then what's happening right here. But, the only thing I was thinking to do was I motioned to approve the MOA with the additional language added that all punch list items outlined are required to be completed as written in the MOA dated May 3rd's meeting. So it's whatever we saw tonight, because I don't want it leaving here and being edited tomorrow or have another draft copy. So what's in there right now? That's what I was,
Okay,
I'm okay with the MOA the way
MOA
it
is
stands
fine.
now that we looked into it more. I don't know.
so that was my motion. Just adding that
okay.
one
We have a
sentence.
motion. Is there a second?
Okay, I make it, I
So,
guess not. I guess
there is
That's
only,
good.
can you repeat your motions?
The motion is to approve the MOA with the additional language that all punch list items outlined are to be required as completed, dated this meeting date. So just saying what you guys said, like, it's not optional, it has to be done. And this is the one in copy, so it's today's meeting, the one we see, so can't be in a week from now or after election that it changes, it's today's.
So
That's the only difference I had.
Mr. Chairman, I think that number 4 does address what you're saying, that if you approve, so it's that all outstanding items on the New High Circle punch list attached here to as Exhibit A and incorporated herein, and all outstanding items on the Westland Circle punch list attached here too as Exhibit B and incorporated herein. So that would lock those
All of
two.
these, that covers
Yep.
your concern,
Okay.
right? So then we're,
It
so,
doesn't cover my concern. Nothing's gonna
No.
cover I'm not voting for this today, no matter what.
okay.
So, is there a motion to accept the MOA?
I make a motion to approve the MOA with Crescent Builders LLC.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Let's move.
Motion to accept the
I got a
MOA,
motion and a second.
okay. Motion to accept the MOA. We have a motion and second. Any further discussion?
Okay,
Yeah,
second. Who seconded?
Exhibit A and B are,
I
this is a
seconded.
legal, oh, I'm sorry.
I did, he's asking who seconded it.
This is a legal document, and Exhibit A and B are not, are atrocious for a legal document, so I could never imagine voting yes for this.
But we don't want the revised one.
Mark, the revised one you came up with that you didn't go through the planning board,
You
how
have to go
could we
through the
accept it
planning board.
here?
Well,
It's up to
the
you.
town administrator said we can change it any way we want. We don't need the planning board to approve it.
Do you have
But we
copies
can't-
for all of us to, and then the markup comparing
Yeah, we
it?
have
I
to
mean,
go
is that, Chris, I'm
I
honest.
agree,
like,
I'm just
do you
saying
wanna do
that,
this?
I mentioned about changing things, and she said we can make any changes, but, so we have a motion and a second,
So-
so.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
No,
Oppose,
no,
motion carries.
you're gonna be sorry.
Okay. That comes to the final item, FY 2024, final budget presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just give me a minute to get the document ready to go.
Going to flight with you?
You want the consensus with the markups, with them noted?
I don't, we didn't vote on it. Yeah, do you wanna take a recess for a second?
Let's wait for,
Let's take a 5-minute recess.
we can load.
Let's go.
Let's take a recess for 5 minutes.
A little water. I'm gonna be talking.
He can't start packing up yet.
Chapter 70, education.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I know the folks who are live on Zoom can't see this now, but they'll be able to see it in the recording that's posted afterwards. So this is the fiscal year 2024 budget. So there's what I consider to be three main drivers that are driving the budget. The first is inflation. So inflation has impacted all aspects of municipal government. On the bright side, inflation rates seem to be coming down, is trending down. The current rate is 4.98% nationally, but the high was 9.06% in June of last year. So that has impacted across the board. The second key driver is fire personnel. So this budget adds 3 full-time firefighters, bringing the department a step closer to full staffing. And the budget also accounts for contractual obligations of the fire department that were not previously fully accounted for. And lastly, that one-time sources have been used to balance the budget. So budget lines such as veterans benefits and health insurance were decreased to balance the budget. In addition, local receipts were budgeted less conservatively, which means that there were more local receipts included in the revenue budget. And these actions combined will result in less free cash and budget fixed flexibility in the future. On the revenue side of revenues included in the budget, the large majority is coming from taxation at 69%. And the next highest amount is state aid minus our charges or assessments at 12%, local receipts at 9%, and the enterprise, sewer enterprise at 7%, and associated funds at 7%, and the other, including reserves. So the other is the free cash that we have in the budget, as well as PEG funds and a few other items. This is just showing the trend of unrestricted government aid, commonly referred to as UGA, over 2018 through 2014, and I'm going to overlay this with our trends in a few slides. And then similar, the trend of Chapter 70 over that same time period, even flatter. And on this chart, well, it's not as dramatic. You can see that the top line, the West Boylston budget, is pulling away. The slope is increasing greater than state aid and Chapter 70, especially Chapter 70. So what that means in practical reality is more of a reliance on the tax base than those state aid sources. And I think at the last meeting, Leslie went really in depth on revenue. So I'm not going to go too much further other than the use of free cash in the operational budget. So Select Board Policy F6 says that except in extraordinary circumstances, unassigned fund balances should not be used to fund more than 1% of the ongoing and routine year-to-year operating expenditures of the town. Moreover, as much as practicable, the town will limit its use of free cash to funding one-time expenditures, such as capital projects or emergencies, and will appropriate any excess to build reserves or to offset unfunded liabilities. The town has had a long history, though, of using 1% of the budget, using free cash to supplement 1% of the budget. So this year, that amount is $290,000. In practical terms, if there is a year, and I understand that it has happened in the past, where we don't have that amount of free cash, we are in a difficult position. And ultimately, the town should move off of reliance of free cash in the operating budget. One-time money, one-time sources. So you have a total operating budget of $29,037,228. And this just shows graphically how that is apportioned. I don't know if, can you see? Okay, you can see my cursor. So the large majority of it is education, 48%. The next highest chunk, and we're going to go into all of these, is other, at 26%. Public safety, 12%. Public works, 6%. Where I see a lot of arguments come about is this small section, 5% of general government, and then culture and recreation at 2%, and human services at 1%. But this just shows graphically how that pie is broken up.
I thought we had a breakdown for school different than 48%?
So, other encompasses, health insurance. The health insurance, I don't like the way we do this. Health insurance is considered a fixed cost, so
Correct.
all of the health insurance for all of the teachers is part of that other. So when you take that health insurance and debt service, those are the two big ones. Everything that's left, 2/3 of it goes to the school, 1/3 of it goes to town.
Even though they're more than that actually.
Yes, because, well,
Can you go back to that
67%.
next slide?
Allegedly.
I really don't like the way we do the health insurance, is that other, what is that, 26%?
Yep.
That's health insurance, debt service, and that's basically it, right? There's a couple,
So health insurance, general insurance, debt service, and ESCO.
but ESCO goes back to the
Yeah.
school, so forget about ESCO, that's going away, but, so it's in all our insurances.
So it could be another 15% over to the education.
I think it's more than that, because they have
Most
to,
of the employees.
most
20%.
employees, yeah, so if, I mean, what is the actual amount of the budget that goes? I haven't done that calculation, but it's certainly more than 50%, if you take into account the health insurance, that is for the teachers.
Right, if you subtracted that from the other and placed it into this large pie, that pie would grow significantly.
Go ahead, Rob. Do you know that? I'm just looking in the other budget spreadsheet, and it doesn't seem to break it out, teacher.
No, it doesn't break it
So
down.
we know how many employees are on our health
That's how we
insurance,
have-
and
we
we know,
have to
and
break
also, retirees too, retirees as well, so, is in that other,
We
so.
talked at one time about actually doing that and breaking it out so we know, I don't know if you were on the board then.
No, I
Breaking it
wasn't.
out just to kind of, so you get a real look at what.
I was on the finance committee back then, and we were talking about it on the finance committee back then.
Right, trying to sit down and really say what every department real budget is, breaking those up, not keeping it as.
You gotta redo everything, and
No, but for next year, sure, let's try to break that up, so we
I
can
think
look
it's
at it,
just to
right?
tell the residents
Yeah.
really where the money's going. When you say other,
Well-
they don't know where it's going.
There'll be a whole slide on where other comes from.
Yeah, I
so-
know, but not to
But-
each department, not to each
No,
department.
not to each
but
department,
looking at
not to
this,
number of
if I'm a town resident, I'm looking at this and I'm saying 48% of the money goes to education, and
It is-
that's
It
misleading.
is over 50% when you include the benefits.
Way over.
The benefit,
Well over, it's
benefit
probably
side.
60.
Yeah. The benefit side. But that is not the way we are currently budgeted, and I don't have data to put that forward.
But if
So-
I can only just say one thing, also the 12% for public safety will be higher, because we would take the other
Yeah.
and put it to them. General government would be a little higher.
That's true.
So I'm
It
just
would, it
saying,
would get a portion
everybody, we're
throughout.
just talking about
It would be a
one.
truer picture of where the money goes.
Correct.
But there is definitely a higher proportion of school folks on health and, on health insurance.
There's
and
more
higher-
employees.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly,
it's the only
and
reason.
retirees.
Right.
Yep, absolutely.
Through the chair. So is this normal normal in towns where there's this 40-50% for schools? Because I know there's a typical equation.
Sure, so,
Say.
so we have our own formula that, I don't know that it's ever been reduced to writing, but at least institutionally speaking, has been abided by between the school and the town. But
Okay.
aside from that, normal, if you are in a non-regional school district, it is pretty typical to see approximately 50% of the budget go to the school.
Okay. So we're not abnormal in this case?
No.
Okay.
Actually, there's some towns that I'm aware of that budget, and they really try to get it 50-50 so that there's not an argument on town meeting floor.
Okay.
All right, so this is again just showing the trends over time. Town did have a little dip in 2020. The school did not, so I just thought that that was an interesting kind of data point to point out, but
Did it? You mean a jump or a dip?
dip.
Okay.
Town had a dip. And then has kind of followed suit, but hasn't recovered on the same. But again, where it's about 50-50, that does make sense. Never getting through this budget presentation.
Was that, okay, never mind, that's good.
No, that's okay.
Well, I guess if we could have just sent it to us and we didn't have to, if we didn't have questions.
No, go ahead, Rob. I was just gonna ask if that dip was because there was other funding for COVID or something like that, I don't know.
That was nice.
I have no idea, I wasn't here in 2020.
Why
Couldn't
was
tell
there
you
such
what
an
the
increase in
budgeting
that?
decisions were made.
Why was there
Oh,
such
sure.
an increase
Or
in
that way.
19? Do we remember?
I don't remember.
Why, you know what I'm saying? Because that's why there was a dip, because there was such an increase in 19. Go ahead.
All right, so first we're gonna go through general government. Again, 5% of the budget, $1,349,747. I'm gonna review these in general, but just showing that there is a lot of budgets contained within this 5% amount. So going through each line, moderator, no change, $51. Selectmen, an increase of 28.18%, but it's only a $7,505 line. So there's two associated costs with that: town meeting mailer, an increase for select board professional education to allow more select board members to attend the conference. So that wasn't budgeted in the past. Town administrator, I was being a little narcissistic and I put my face in there, $217,200. That's a 10.9% increase. So contractual increases in salary and fringe benefits for the public's edification, I am not getting a 10.9% salary increase, but my contract does call for me to be allowed to go to a certain number of conferences a year, and that wasn't budgeted for. And it also has a staff market adjustment. Okay. Finance Committee reserve, $32,000, no change. Town accountant is a under 1% increase. It was just a minor increase for wages. Town audit has a more significant increase of 43.01%, and that's because every 2 years we are required to do an OPEB actuarial study. Going up and down, I think just as a point, is a little problematic to budget in the future. I think we should kind of keep it at this every year. Yes, every other year we'll roll over to free cash, but once you remove money from the budget, it becomes harder to put it back in the future. So the assessor's office, 3.32% increase, $99,725. We use a third-party assessing vendor, RRG, and there is a contractual increase there. And this budget was also extremely tight last year and didn't have any allowance for overtime. So we built in a little bit of allowance there. Treasurer collector, no change of significance, under 1%. And town council, no change, $85,000. Data processing, this is a small decrease. There was a lot of capital purchases last year for our IT infrastructure, but our capital outlay is decreasing, so a small 2.42% decrease.
Is that software, or is that only?
Oh, so it's, the data processing line includes our third-party contractor, CM Geeks. It includes software. It includes actual equipment.
So is that where that new building support, building office software is coming from?
No, so the building software, the online permitting is not budgeted. That is something that I said I was going to be applying for a community compact grant for.
Right.
But to that point, if we did get that software or any software, the ongoing maintenance fees would be included in that line. So your subscription fees, your maintenance fees are in that line, yes. Town clerk, 6.18% increase. There was no flexibility in the budget for if the town clerk was on vacation to ramp up the assistant town clerk to cover while she was on vacation. And there is an increase in staff steps. On this particular budget, I did not grant the town clerk close to her requested amount. I want to keep an eye on this. We do have elections here. I might be coming for a budget fix on this one depending on how it looks in the fall, but this is one area where I could see we might need to fix. Elections and registrations, 8.09%. I guess I should have said between these two lines, could see a budget fix at $22,722, and that is, now that we're doing vote by mail, there are increased costs associated with vote by mail.
I have another question. Go ahead.
Let me go back?
Well, it's just in general about the elections, we just said that the police chief decides how many people or whatever about the staffing up for his officers at elections. Does that come out of that line, or is that just his hourly and stuff anyhow?
That's to cover the police officers, that comes out of the police department's budget. No, this would be election workers, election materials, programming of the poll pads and the collection system. Okay, conservation, no change, $1,800. No, we don't only pay our conservation administrative assistant $1,800. All of these next three lines are supported by revolving funds, so this is the offset. Planning board, there is an increase of 10.29% here, bringing it up to $4,500. As you saw this evening earlier, the planning board is actively engaged in looking at bylaws and regulations. It is anticipated that there's going to be more work in that space that will require more staff time. And ZBA, administrative assistant, no change. And I'm hearing from Mr. Femia that they need more money. All right, town hall buildings, $76,291. It's a 2.56% increase that is really just being driven by the contract that we have for our janitorial services that's scaling up. Public safety, 1.26% for $48,400. There's no change of significance there. And the town report, an increase of 25%, bringing that up to $1,000 for the increased printing costs for the town report, which I will note, Faye has submitted, and they are in the printer's office as we speak. WBPA PEG TV, an increase of 9.72% for $60,950. This is generated by user fees. It's not based on taxation. So there is some additional funding here for some equipment upgrades that had been planned, as well as covering some more hours for staff. So I think that this is a department that we're going to have to follow and see where this goes. I know I've been reporting kind of on different changes in the department, but as you see, Emmanuel is here filming tonight. So.
The up by 9.72%, is that an us request, or is that just how the user fees are going?
No, so the user fees are actually going down. So as people are cutting the cord, so to speak, the user fees go down.
So how did it increase?
So
You have money, there's money.
there's a reserve. There is a reserve for cable. Pretty healthy reserve, but if we tap into it too much, it would diminish over time. And without going too far afield, this is a whole area that we don't know what the future really looks like here, because people are cutting cords all the time. Facilities management, this was previously budgeted, as the board knows, but not filled. So there's an increase of 56.25% for a total of $50,000. This is the shared position with Sterling, but this is the all-in total for this person, so for the town of West Boylston. So where you see, like to our earlier point about staff in different departments, their benefits are somewhere else. This includes the benefits for the position itself, costs associated with the vehicle as well. I can see you have a question.
How much was earlier?
32,000.
32,000. Thank you.
Okay, public safety, where I think a lot of our discussion is going to come tonight, which is, I'm thankful the chief has stuck around with us into the late hour. So this is overall $3,594. $594,755 at 12% budget. Police, fire, public safety, communications, or dispatch, building inspector, and emergency management and animal control. So police is a 4.01% increase for $1,847,987. As the board is aware, there is some transition happening within the department as folks are getting towards retirement. So succession planning and associated hiring costs to bring on new folks. Not that they'll be hired in this budget, but the hiring process will start, and there's some costs associated there. as well as some contractual service increases. That is mostly, though, not CBA contract. That's contracts that the police department has for their building, for their tasers, things of that like. So non-staff related contractual increases. Fire is, and we're going to go again in more detail on fire in a slide, $1,439,480 for a 32.94% increase. This adds 3 full-time firefighters. There is the increased call volume for the department, as well as increased non-staff related costs. And there are benefits that are granted within the contract for the staff that haven't been fully allocated in the budget in the past. Public safety communications, $168,847. This is actually a decrease of 11.7%. Cost savings due to regionalization and grants, and I think some of the conversations that the board was aware of that happened in the fall and over the winter months led to our beneficial information this year.
That just, I mean, that right there, the regionalization of our community, our public safety communications, we could never run that department if it was just in this town for 160.
Absolutely not. We could not.
It does work when we can get it together.
Yeah, and there's a lot of funding in this space. So regionalization of dispatches is an area that State 911 is actively pursuing and providing a lot of seed money and continued operational money, because this is a model that they are actively pushing for. So that is a huge addition to what the towns provide on their own as well. But you're right, that for $168,000, we could not probably even have 3 people.
And there were hiccups when it started. I haven't heard any complaints.
I think there's still some issues, but when
Nothing
someone
else.
gets 911, it gets to the fire department, it gets to the police department. The internal issues with staffing and management, that's when the residents, the
I'm saying for the
service is still
residents,
there.
yeah.
The service is there.
Yeah.
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 Okay, I thought it was in the next slide. It's in the next slide after this. So rounding out public safety, building inspector has a 7.95% increase, or $107,141. The large driver in this is that the new full-time position, that position was supported by this line, but now we've brought it fully into this line, so the Board of Health admin or the Board of Health line is actually zeroed out. And so there's no support for that position by the revolving fund. The revolving fund will be used to support the regional alliance agreement, but not the staff. So that's where you see that increase. Sealer of weights and measures, we have a contract with the Commonwealth for this, $3,800, 117.14% increase. Emergency management, yes, the increase is huge, but it's only $3,800. Emergency management, $13,000, 62.5% increase. What this was is moving the contractual stipend associated with emergency management duties from the fire department budget into the emergency management budget. So it's really just a reshuffling, not an actual increase. It's an increase to this line, but not an increase overall per se. And animal control, no change at $14,500. So now going into the fire department in more detail, I'm going to read a quote because I think it's important from the select board meeting of October 6, 2021. This is not the quote in its full entirety. As you see, there are ellipses. Chief Tom Welsh stated he has concerns with staffing issues, and he will be applying for a staffing for adequate fire and emergency response grant, SAFER. He stated that if he is not awarded this grant, he will be coming back to the town to fund these positions. He does not see the call volunteers as they used to, and West Boylston is not alone. Chief Welsh stated 2 firefighters would answer the need to have 3 groups of 3, and if a 3rd firefighter was added, it would backfill the day shift. The town is trying very hard to fill the need of the department. Chief Welsh stated after 3-year grant funding is up, where my screen share is, I can't see it, with, when
I think
three.
that worked out nice
three-
that the fire chief had a fire truck come by.
planned that.
About the fire department.
He's on his phone.
Chief
too.
Welch stated after the 3-year grant funding is up, the goal would be to keep these people in the budget. You out? Okay.
They'll be all right. I think that's pretty much it.
So now we're gonna talk about current staffing of the fire department. This is the current roster. So of officers, you have 1 full-time person, the chief, Mr. Sadowski, and then you have a deputy chief and a captain that are not full-time personnel. For full-time staff, you have 3 groups. 1 group is a group of 3, and 2 groups are groups of 2. That is your daytime folks, largely. Not 100%, but largely your daytime folks. And then that is supplemented by the per diem folks that you see at the bottom of the screen. But the majority of those folks at the bottom are all folks that work primarily in other fire departments, so they are only coming to us when they're able to. They have full-time jobs elsewhere. So this is to show what this looks like in reality with a shift of 2, which is 2 of our 2 shifts. So that is our apparatus. You have 2 ambulances and a fire truck. Not all of our apparatus, but some of them. So on the picture on the left, for your shift of 2, if they are going out with the ambulance, that second ambulance, if there's a second call, that ambulance waits. If it's a fire call and you need to take the ladder out, that fire truck waits for 2 more persons to arrive before it can. You could roll the truck to the location, but you can't do anything when you get there.
But our mutual aid with other towns, would they send an ambulance if you don't have staffing at that time?
Yep, so what we do is we have a mutual aid agreement with all the other communities around us, so they provide us services when we need it, we provide them services when they need it.
So we say that we can't send another truck out, but an ambulance still goes out to the call.
Right, time delay because they're coming from another community and stuff, but yes.
Could be a minute, a couple minutes, yeah.
Is it a minute?
It's several minutes, depending on the time, and, depending on where they are, depending on their availability.
That happens if our ambulance is at UMass.
Absolutely.
You gotta wait that, or if Boylston's ambulance is somewhere, it takes that time to get there. Every town has that same issue, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sure but the big cities, I mean, but I'm thinking the small towns.
Well, we're going to have some small-town comps in just a few slides, so. For a shift of 3, you have now the person standing, so that is one of our shifts, is a shift of 3, the person standing at that second ambulance, not able to go out, and the fire truck still waiting. Shift of 4, you have 2 ambulances that are both operational from West Boylston, and that fire truck can roll. This is the ideal for what I believe this town should work towards.
But when you say that, I mean, if we want taxes to go up to double what we're now, we can put on 7 new firefighters if we choose to. We're putting on 3 right now, but we need.
Sure. If I could just speak to it for a minute, so.
Do you want to come up, Chief?
Yeah, I was gonna say
It's
so.
entirely up to you. If you want me to go up there, I'll slide up there, but, so the driving forces behind where we establish our staffing dynamic from is NFPA and OSHA. NFPA, as I'm sure you're aware, governs everything from building construction to fire and EMS response. All the standards and are all based off of that. The smoke detectors, the horn strobes, the exit signs, the door sizes, everything is driven by NFPA. The sprinklers in this building, all driven by NFPA. The response for fire service is also outlined in NFPA 1710. NFPA 1710 says that the minimum staffing for a fire engine is 4 personnel. And the reason for that is what they call the 2-in, 2-out rule. To go into an IDLH, immediately dangerous to life and health environment, so smoke, carbon monoxide, fire, anything in which you would have to wear an air pack for, excuse me, is considered IDLH. So under both the OSHA and NFPA standards, You have to have 2 people to make entry and 2 people outside as a backup crew. So that's where those benchmarks come from. The other thing is the response, a total response for the type of fire or incident that it is. So a first alarm. So they categorize these fires into 3 different levels. So a low risk, which is considered and defined as a 2-story wood frame, 1 or 2 family residential structure, is considered a low risk. Minimum number of firefighters required is 16, okay? 17 if you're operating an aerial truck, a ladder truck. They identify all the apparatus required, the positions for the personnel of what they're supposed to do within that. So with that, then when you go to the next level, so on the response time, we have standards for everything that we do. We have standards for the dispatchers that we just talked about at the regional dispatch center. They have to turn the call around within 60 seconds. So from the time you call 911, they derive your information, they have to alert us within 60 seconds. We have 80 seconds to turn out. Turn out means drop whatever you're doing, get your gear on, get on the truck, and get on the air. And then from the time we get on the air, we have 240 seconds, so 4 minutes, to get that first due piece to the incident location. The second due piece is supposed to be there within 6 minutes, and the full first alarm assignment is supposed to be there within 8 minutes. We obviously can't meet this because we have to use a combination of our in-house resources, our recall personnel, and our mutual aid resources. Geographically, we can't meet those time constraints. But what we can do is meet the number of personnel and the number of apparatus. So with that, the goal is for us to be able to get 4 people out the door as quick as possible on a fire truck to initiate the attack on the fire. Do we always meet it in 4 minutes? No. If it's close to the station, we do. If it's in a certain proximity, we can, if we have the personnel there. Some outlying areas of town, we do not. These are factors that play into like your ISO rating for your insurances, things like that. So fire hydrants, where they're located, proximity to your business or your home, all play into it. So we, to try to meet compliance with NFPA 1710, use automatic aid and mutual aid resources. So in the city of Worcester, you would have all Worcester trucks. So you're gonna have, 3 or 4 engines, 2 or 3 ladders, a heavy rescue, and a district chief on a first alarm. Their fires are exactly the same as ours. The standards that we have to meet are exactly the same. These are nationally recognized standards. So for us to try to meet them, we now, because we can only effectively staff 1 piece of apparatus in the town of West Boylston, and that includes bringing people in off duty. So with that, we staff 1 piece. Sterling sends us a ladder truck on a first alarm. Boylston sends us an engine. Clinton sends us an engine. Holden sends us an engine. That's our first alarm. That
If I could
meets
just
the
ask one
NFPA
question.
standard.
And we do the same,
And we do the same for them.
Yeah.
So Sterling staffs 4 people. So they staff their first engine, we come with our engine, and then I'm sure they have Clinton, Leominster, Holden, whomever, also augment that, as well as their recall personnel. So they may have a little bit less because they have a pretty active call department, but they're gonna send the same total resources to the fire to meet the same standards, and everybody else does the same. Then when you get into like strip malls, garden-style apartments, those require 28 people for a response, considered a medium hazard. So for us, that would be a second alarm fire. So our second alarm running card brings in an engine and ladder from the city of Worcester, so from the West Boylston Street Station. So we have a pretty quick reflex time with that. On our first alarm, Shrewsbury comes to cover our station. So they're now in town, so they're on the second alarm, and then Rutland is our next resource coming in. So they're gonna be a little bit delayed because of the travel time, but by bringing those communities in, helps us, again, to meet the number of personnel and apparatus for the NFPA requirement. We don't have any high rises, so we don't have that high-risk category that they speak to. So that's kind of a moot point for us. City of Worcester would. So if we go there, we may be part of their response to that type of an incident, but we don't have it in town other than some of the hazardous material facilities and stuff. But so for us to try to meet these standards, the first thing that we do now, when we get a call for a fire, so like a fire alarm, it's okay to send the 2 people that are on duty right now. Of course, remember, that's also your ambulance crew. So they're over there with the engine with the 2 people investigating a fire alarm. That's perfectly fine. If that were a fire, they would have to wait. So the first thing they're gonna do, the alarm goes off, they go out, put their gear on, get on the truck, and wait for 2 more people to show up. So those people are coming from home, they're coming from wherever, but they have to have 4 people when they get there. They can't go into that building until they have those 4 people. So whether they went with the 2 and, waited for 2 more to show up, but we kind of lose the accountability of people, all the gears at the station, so they would have to effectively wait for another truck to come. Now you've got 2 trucks with 4 people, it doesn't make sense. So, any expectation of the people when we show up. If a fire truck, you call for a fire, and a fire truck pulls up in your driveway, and 1 or 2 people get off of it, the expectation is you thought they were gonna come, pull hoses into your house, rescue the people that are in there, put the fire out, well, we don't have the manpower to do it. We don't have the personnel. And that's the challenge we're running into. This plays a twofold role with us. Our emergency medical service is exceptionally busy. We have a demographic population in town that's a little bit older than the average. Part of that makeup is the over 55 communities, which we have multiple of. We have 2 nursing homes that are actually, one's a standalone nursing home, one's a nursing home, and a huge over 55 complex, including these ginormous buildings with multiple residents within the buildings that are assisted living and different degrees of support. And so our ambulance responds to about 1,600 calls a year. That call for service has really taxed the 2 to 3 people that we normally have on duty. So as you see, that's our resource, they're there now. So if we get a medical call, we have to either wait for somebody to come in off duty, or call another town, or wait for them to get back. And that happens probably about 400 times a year. So on average, about once a day, we have overlapping calls where we don't have the personnel to send to the call.
Does dispatch know what's going on enough so they'll call the other truck or the other town right away?
They do. So they know what they'll do is they'll call them, because if they're on their way back from a call, it might be more time effective for them to just hurry back, get an ambulance, go to the next call. Obviously, if they're off at the hospital from the first call, there's no one there, so the procedure is for them to do our all-call to alert everybody that's off duty, to try to get people in first. And if we don't get a response, people key in if they're available and responding back to the station. If we don't get people to make up that crew within a couple of minutes, they will call for mutual aid.
So Chief, the 400 missed calls, obviously, if you have 4 people, you're not gonna get them all, but you're gonna be able to staff some of them.
Yes.
It's a budget discussion. If you don't have the number, do you know what the lost dollar value of those calls would be if we could have staffed them? Because I'm assuming that's gonna cover some of this added staff we're looking for.
It would, and it's very speculatory because we don't have hard data to say this many are medical calls, this many are, assistance calls, somebody fell, they weren't actually hurt, didn't get transported. Some of them are fire alarm calls, things like that. So, of those calls, I would say probably, 200 of them might be ambulance transports. I think that's probably a pretty close number. Of that, with the ambulance billing rates, our gross billing on that is probably somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000. Our collections of billing is probably around 50%. So you're probably talking in the neighborhood of, say $150,000 of revenues that we would likely to collect and
So
offset.
the ask is not
Yeah.
as big as the number.
Well, that's making a lot of assumptions. You're making a lot of assumptions.
But
Yes, and that's why I'm trying to be very clear
Your
that I'm
ambulance,
not guaranteeing.
yeah, some of those
any
calls,
this.
your ambulance could already be out of town.
Yeah.
And Sterling could
be
still
a
come
third
in.
call.
Correct.
There-
But
But
a-
there's
a
certainly gonna
number of
be,
scenarios.
some
there's gonna
cost.
be some increased revenue
Certainly,
if we staff it up to four packs per shift.
Now, the difference is, so what we're talking about in this budget is staffing to 3 people, okay? So this doesn't get us the 4 that we're looking for. This is, I put in my request to staff to 4. It was a number that I think, you probably choked a little bit when you saw it. But so, to get to 4 was a huge increase, and she's gonna speak to some of the challenges, why we're so far behind. We have been underfunded, this department has been underfunded for a very long time. Our budget is a fraction of what our comparable communities are at. So our growth to get to 3 and our growth to get to 4 is significantly more than what it should be. We're starting very late in the game to get to where we should be at with the staffing. So this is an incremental step. This is to get us this year up to 3 people all the time. And then going forward, we're looking to increase that to 4 so we can answer the 2 medical calls that overlap each other, or that 1 fire engine to have adequate staffing.
I just have one
Yes.
question for you. So when I think of the all-call, these are full-time employees, so they're all working full-time. If they get a call, all of this is now overtime for anyone answering any of these calls, and they get first dibs, right?
It's a combination, so when we do an all-call, it's a combination of our full-time staff that are off-duty for the ones that are close enough to
Yeah.
respond. Some of them live further away. Also, our call and per diem members that live either in town or in the area. Our call department has been dwindling for years, and that's what Chief Welsh was speaking to
Yeah.
a couple of years ago. Our call members that we still have that are truly just call are our Deputy Chief, Bob O'Connell, who's been on the department since the early 80s. He's now retired from his professional career, and he splits his time between here and Wells, Maine. So we get him half the time, and Maine gets him half the time. So his availability is limited. He's exceptionally committed when he is here. And I also use him for some administrative roles during the business week as well. So, and that has a lot to do with our ambulance billing and stuff. We've been really working very hard on making sure we're getting the most out of that. Then we have Captain Mark Barakian, who works full-time for Boylston Light. He's been on the department since 1982. And he's a very committed member as well. And then his brother, Scott Barakian, who's a full-time member of the municipal light department in town, he's been on the department since 1980. He also is very committed and comes in regularly. One of the challenges we're gonna experience over the next few years here, those guys are gonna age out. Massachusetts does not allow firefighters to work past age 65 in any capacity, not full-time, part-time, call. So those gentlemen will unfortunately have to come to a conclusion of their fire service to the town of West Boylston in the next 5 to 8 years. After that, we have almost no call department. So then we still have per diems. The per diems that we have predominantly live in town or in the area. They work full-time mostly for other fire departments, and then with their commitment to the industry, their commitment to the town that they live in, similar to what I do in the town I live in. When they're available, they come and help out. So occasionally, we get them to come in here and there. But our callback numbers are very low, and that's the reality, and unfortunately, that's gonna continue to taper off. And realistically, in the next probably 10 years, is gonna come to a conclusion. It's just, for some reason, there's just not many people getting into the call fire department path anymore that there used to be. I mean, this department was exclusively call 30 years ago and probably 30 to 50 members strong, but so was Holden, so was Rutland, so was every single town around here, Sterling and Boylston, and they're all evolving into these small career departments because by force, they're losing their staff call personnel. They're aging out and there's no one coming up to replace them.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mark. It sounds like we're almost regional in a way.
We are, we
with
very
mutual
much
call.
are, yes.
And are we, this might sound horrible, but are we doing what we need to do to be a good neighbor in these?
That's our challenge. When we are at 4, we will be doing our part to supply, to the other communities, hey, this is what we have, we can respond immediately. Right now, when Sterling or Boylston or Holden calls us,
Yep.
we have to wait. We have to wait for people to come in before we can send them. So they've got a fire, they're expecting us to come, and the first thing we do is we wait. And until we have those 4 people, and then we go.
Boylston doesn't, they might do that the same, because they have a lot of,
They do the same.
they do the
because
same, they wait, you might
They
wait
have
for
to
them
wait to come here, right, and that's the challenge, so it's like, now we're expecting them to come. Now, I know Sterling will come quicker because they have 4 on duty, but they also have a very active call department still, and they're gonna send us a resource. Holden has enough staffing, they will send us a resource quickly. Clinton has 6 people on duty all the time, they will send us a resource quickly. But yes, we will likely have to wait a few minutes for Boylston to come. That's the nature
Are
of
they
the
about the
beast.
same situation as us, the staffing and size of town now?
Yeah, their town is half our size roughly,
Yeah,
and
much
so their staffing is actually almost the same. They staff more by day, but they're staffing similarly to what we do. Yeah.
Any other questions before we proceed to the next slide? Okay. All right. So this is just showing the call volume trend over time. You can see starting really, and there was a slight dip with contagion fear in 2020, but you can see where we are really starting to ramp up in that call volume. So right now, we're only a third of the way through. If the trends continue, we'll beat out 2022 by the time all is said and done. What do you estimate?
That's calls you took or all, does that include the missed calls?
That is, so even like with the missed calls, if we send one person or 2 people and still have to bring like another town in, those are included in there. So, but this is all the calls that we received during the course of the year.
All right, so if we got a third, if all our crew's out, we get
Yep.
another call, that's included?
That's included in
Okay,
there,
got it,
absolutely.
thanks.
This is the total
Yep.
volume, and right now, we're over 700 calls this year, and we're at the 1/3 mark through the calendar year, so we're trending towards 2,100 and change calls for this year as of right now, and we have some busier months during the course of the year, so I'm predicting we'll be likely between 2,100 and 2,200 calls this year.
so is the increase, it's not because of our population. The population hasn't gone up that much.
Right, it's not
So
directly.
It's been
to
level
that.
for 18,
Yep.
19, I don't see below 8, before 18, but, so you must have an idea of why.
We do.
Are we going to other towns more, are we going to?
So there's a combination of factors. One, with the population that we have, we do more calls per capita and more calls per our population than other similar sized towns because of that age demographic. The older population uses more medical services, that's just the nature of it. We're at the nursing homes every day, sometimes multiple times. We were at one of the nursing homes twice today, and that's not uncommon. The Worcester County House of Corrections, we're there on a regular basis. That one accounts for a good chunk. We do a lot of mutual aid to the city of Worcester. They're in a really stressed situation right now with their ambulance service. And then we provide a lot of advanced life support for the towns of Boylston and Clinton because they run BLS ambulances. So we help them out with our paramedic service from time to time.
So the jail and the nursing homes have been the same, 18, 19, and 20.
But
There's still been that increase.
the calls, they're calling more frequently, the residents are calling more frequently, just the calls in general. I think a lot of times physicians are seeing less patients in office. A lot of the people don't have access to urgent care or aren't aware of the urgent care stuff, so they're going to the hospitals. And when they call, we go and sometimes we evaluate them, and if we find a more appropriate solution for them, we may treat them and release them. They can sign a refusal saying they don't want to go to the hospital. We get a car accident and people have minor injuries, we can bandage them, have them sign a waiver of liability refusal. So those don't always trigger a transport to the hospital. But we still have to go to evaluate them and then obviously deal with the hazards of the vehicle or whatever, but, but the calls in general, the call volume is increasing steadily and starting to curve upward fairly dramatically.
All right, so the fire chief has identified Rutland, Sterling, and Westminster as being comparable communities due to, chief, it was in addition to the population of the community, the overall budget.
Yeah, and the staff, the fire department calls for service, population, proximity, they're all Worcester County communities, but these are very similar in size and general makeup of the community. None of them are particularly industrial or commercial or rural. They're very similar to West Boylston in demographic.
So what this is, in the red bar graph, that's the 2021 call volume for each of those communities. So that's before we really started increasing, but I don't have the 2022 call volume for anybody else. So that's the 2021 call volume. And then you see where our budget lies in comparison and where our staffing is in comparison. So we are the lowest in budget and compared to Westminster and Sterling pretty significantly. And then we have Sterling and West Boylston have similar numbers of firefighters, but as the chief said, that there is a greater call response. And then Rutland is staffing 12, not including the chief, and Westminster at 13.
Rutland has 3 members on the SAFER grant right now.
Yep.
So their request for this year is significantly more to pay for those because they're coming off the grant.
The 7, is that with new prospective members, or is that what it is today?
7 is our current, so it's the 1 shift of 3 and 2 shifts of 2, not including the chief. And this is showing where, in FY23 alone, where each of those communities' relationship between police and fire budgets are. So the red are the fire budgets for each of those communities, the blue are the police budgets for each of these communities. And this is not to say that this is a police versus fire issue in West Boylston. This is just showing the parity between the two. Westminster, you'll see there is a higher police budget, but they are paying for their dispatch out of that police budget. So you see that we actually even have a greater delta than Westminster.
Which one's our dispatch under?
It's
Is it broken up evenly?
It's a
through the town?
standalone budget.
You don't have it in here?
No, so these other budgets
Include dispatch.
for Rutland and Sterling do not include dispatch.
Just Westminster?
Only Westminster includes dispatch. So this is kind of the just general trend of what would have been voted at the annual town meetings for the fire and police budget. And then you will see on the next slide, with budget fixes, we're starting to close that gap a little bit. So budget fixes have been pretty routine in the fire department over the course of years. So it's a little bit better than this. Yes.
Do budget fixes include grants?
No. So a budget fix is at either of the town meetings, so if it's coming up at this town meeting, we have some budget fixes where there are budgets that have run short, and so we're transferring from one budget to another budget. At the fall town meeting, there was, new growth came in a lot higher than what was anticipated, so we had additional levy capacity, so there was, budget fixes from taxation there. So it's basically that whatever was budgeted at the annual town meeting isn't enough either at the midway point or in May to get through. And that is actually, so that is kind of the end of the fire alone. So, you know, I do recognize that this is a pretty significant increase for this department. It is only bringing us partway towards a fully staffed fire department. But just to put kind of a reiteration or a finer point on what the chief said of that we're really behind the 8 ball here, and that's why the jump is so significant. Going back to Chief Welch's comments in 2021, that he was at, with the same staffing, he was at a critical point in 2021. We are now in 2023, and there has not been adjustments in staffing. So it's not that, and then over that same time, you have increased call volume. So the need hasn't gone away, it's become worse, but we need to start by funding the department and working it in over time. So work towards a fully staffed department.
Another question would be, would it help us if we were to ask the nursing homes if they could have their own, like, staff, like nurses and stuff like that? EMT people there?
So the nursing homes do have their own nurses, nurse practitioners, PAs, doctors in-house. However, they're limited to what they can actually treat and resolve within the scope of their licensure as a nursing care facility. The slip and falls, the acute illness with like fevers, things like that, they have to send out to the hospitals. So they call emergency services. And one of the other things that's going on right now is a lot of the private ambulance services that do their routine transports are pulling out of the area. I don't know why, I can't speak to that, but I got a call from a director at one of the area nursing facilities asking if we could help out with that, and we're an emergency-only service. We can only transport 2 emergency rooms, so we can't take people to urgent care, doctor's offices, so we can only go to a receiving emergency room. But so I don't anticipate their call volume is going to decline at all in the near future. If anything, I think it's going to increase, because I think they're going to declare more of these minor things as requiring an ambulance to go to the hospital because they don't have another mechanism to deal with it.
Just another point to add to the board. This overall increase to the fire department budget is not being supported only by taxation. So there are increased ambulance receipts included in the budget, well above and beyond last year. So last year there was $400,000 in ambulance receipts. Due to the changes that this board has helped to accomplish, we know that the revenues are stronger, so we're using $625,000 of ambulance receipts in this budget. That still leaves the approximately $90,000 that we're going to want to keep in the kitty to buy a new ambulance eventually. But it's really, you know, it's supported both by taxation and their own revenue that they're generating.
2 questions. Are there any current rounds of SAFER grants that we can go for?
Yep.
He's got one in.
I have one in right now for 4 additional firefighters. And so in conjunction with this would hopefully get us to the 4 per shift, so we'd have 4 on all the time. But we have had no success in the past 4 years with SAFER. And another challenge we experienced last year was Chief Welch had put in for the SAFER grant, which would traditionally come out around June. They had changed part of their process at the federal level, which backlogged their processing time. The grants weren't awarded until September, and then people were waiting for like those traditional second and third round grants to come out, and they never did. We didn't get the notice that we were not gonna get it until December. So,
Yeah.
so then literally only a couple months later, we've reapplied, and, so hopefully we're more successful this year, but, to go with the current trends, we've been declined, I believe, 3 years in a row now, that we have not been awarded that. So I certainly would not hold my breath, count on it, bank on it, or anything else. Maybe a friendly wager on it, that would be about as comfortable as I get.
You alluded to my second question is, so we're looking to get 3 firefighters now. You need 4 more to get up to 4 per shift.
Yeah.
What's the time, are we looking at 4 next year? What's the timeline? What are we looking at to ramp up time-wise?
If the safer grant is.
Say we got no
is
safer
out of-
grant.
Which I just want to say, if anybody has any relationships with Congress folks, a phone call would be much appreciated. But starting to add 1 a year after this.
Okay.
And I will continue to ask for
4.
full staffing at 4 from now until we get to that point. And, and at that point, again, with the call department dwindling, we're gonna have to look at the next level when we hit these next tiers. So in the next few
this is
years, this might continue to.
Obviously, this is stressful for the firemen, firewomen that you have working for you. Will this relieve the stress, and then if we do 1 a year to the point where they'll be okay?
Ultimately, yes, when we get to those levels. Some of the challenges we're experiencing now is we have 3 career firefighter paramedics right now, 2 of which are double rolling as lieutenants. And the third one is a supervisor in the absence of a lieutenant. So they're not only responsible for the shift, but they're also responsible for the higher medical level care of the patients that they're treating. And they're working usually with only the 2 of them, carrying all the bags, carrying the patients, doing all that. And what we're running into is we are by license, by affiliation agreement with our medical control facility, which is UMass Medical, and by contract required to have 1 paramedic on all times and 1 EMT partner with them. So these people are working on an average week, because they have to make up for the Saturday shifts that aren't included in their schedule. They're already working, they work a 48-hour work week to begin with. Then they have to divide the Saturday time. So on average, they're already working, well in excess of 50, 55 hours just at that. Then with people taking off benefit time, being out sick, military, whatever the circumstance is, and then other vacant shifts, they're working overtime and overtime and overtime. It's inefficient in the regards of how we manage our budget, but it's necessary and it's legally obligated to us. So they are working insane numbers of days. We've had to have people, because of, with COVID, we had people out sick, we've had people out injured, we've had people off on time, and where you only have 1 of those people available. And they may have to work 4 days in a row, 4 24-hour shifts in a row until someone else can come in to relieve them. And this is not an irregular occurrence. Typically, it's only 48 hours, maybe into the 50s or 60s, sometimes 72s. Those 96s are less common, but they do happen. And sometimes, it's against their will. They're being forced to stay because we're obligated to it. This past couple weeks when we had the brush fire at the Sterling West Boylston line, I had a night crew that had been to covering the town of Berlin for their house explosion, then went to a brush fire in Boylston, then came to our fire. So they had been on the 24 hours from the day before, and then into the second day, and they didn't get relieved until 8:30 at night. And that was like physically working that whole time. My call members that came in, they all worked 16 hours on that Saturday at the brush fire. So we had people working excessive hours, and it's very, taxing on them.
Yeah.
And then we've also had to deny people time off, because it's like, we have to fill the shift. I know you wanna take vacation, but we need somebody, and you're the only person that we can get.
So I'm not gonna, just to follow up on that point, I'm not gonna attribute this to any firefighter in particular, but I was having a conversation with one of the firefighters about the stress in the department and the overtime. And I told him that, there, I eliminated Jen. So I told him that, that I was going to work on this staffing issue in this budget. And without sounding flip, the response basically was, I'll believe it when I see it. The town administrator before you told us the same thing, and the town administrator before that told us the same thing.
What's next?
Go ahead, Matt.
I have a question about the grant that you apply for. If we continue to add firefighters,
Yep.
and you do or don't get the grant, but if you do get the grant, and we're not, maybe we're getting closer to, and you get a grant for 2 firefighters, can that fund existing firefighters if we've just hired 2 firefighters?
No, and that's
Has to be
one of the
new?
challenges, it has to be new positions, and that's why, it's very, they will cover 100% of the cost of their base salary plus their health insurance benefit. They don't pay for the physicals, the turnout gear, the uniforms, that stuff. They don't cover any overtime or backfill, but they pay it 100% for 3 years, and then the town needs to absorb it after that, and then maintain those positions after that.
I was just wondering about sort of the logistics problems of you try to get the grant, and we're hiring anyways.
Yeah.
Or whatever we do, and then all of a sudden you get hit with a grant for 4, I don't know what's gonna happen, then what do you do?
So the nice thing is that would get us very close to our goal, and it would give us 3 years to plan on the budgetary side. And so it would actually physically get us there this year, coupled with the increase in staffing on the budget. So it would get us, pretty much at 4 most of the time. And then we would have the 3 years to kind of come up with the money, but you would already have the people, and then we would just have to maintain it beyond that. And it was a little over $100,000 per person, so the grant total was $1.2 million over the 3 years. My request was a little over 1.7 to try to do it all this year, and obviously that had to be scaled back. So, just so you kind of have it
Yeah, just-
where it's at, so.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, chief.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay too.
I'm gonna sit back here.
Yeah, just,
Why?
it's like, go home.
I gave it out of the hot seat for a minute.
All right, so the next section of the budget is education at $13,837,414, representing 48% of the budget, which we already talked about. I'm not going to really, the questions about this particular budget can be addressed to the school committee or the superintendent, but you do see the trend over time.
Schools are happy that they're not gonna make waves at town meeting over this number?
So the schools presented me with 3 budgets. This is one of the 3 budgets that essentially that was presented. So with this number, they do have to continue to rely on school choice funds in their operating budget. So it is doable for them this year. However, they are going to be definitely deficit position, if not FY '25, '26.
Go ahead, Matt.
I forgot what I was gonna ask. Never mind.
Good. I mean, sorry. You forgot.
Okay.
We'll come back to it.
Okay, Public Works is $1,802,126, 6% of the budget, covering streets and parks, snow removal, street lighting, trash removal, and tipping fees. Streets and Parks is a 4.13% increase. For $1,034,000 $1,414. It does provide for additional part-time support for administrative position. How that actually looks remains to be seen about the divide, but it does provide the dollars there for additional support. And this budget has benefited from fuel prices stabilizing. Snow and ice removal, $166,000, no change. The town can overspend this account only if the current year funding is at least equal to the prior fiscal year. So that's why a lot of towns don't increase this line, because you can get into a situation that then if you wanted to decrease it, you couldn't overspend it. So we've kept this at 166. Street lighting, $27,550, a slight reduction. I don't know why. That's what Mr. Fitch told me our number was, so that's what that's what we included.
And I say this all the time, that's the light department's always been very, I mean, I recall that $80,000.
Yeah.
8, 9 years ago.
Less than that.
Yeah.
So
He does a great job, helps the town out.
you know, sometimes when you're facing a budget crisis, one of the places that towns will look for a reduction is this line. Ours is so low, it wouldn't make a difference.
Could never even ask him. We wouldn't even ask him.
One of the lights.
It's not even a part-time person. So trash removal and tipping fees, a pretty significant increase here. I am 7.22%. It's the contract rates that are just going up. I know we have been discussing this with the solid waste advisory team about how to address this issue. They're not going down anytime soon. I know we'll have to go out to contract shortly, but this is definitely a concern about that trend.
I remember my question on education.
Education.
On education, is the superintendent or anybody ever gonna make a presentation like, we used to get a long time ago? I mean, they just say what's going on in the schools, big changes, small changes, anything like that? I mean,
They have a budget meeting
Yeah, I was-
every year.
They had that
Every-
budget presentation. I was there. Yeah.
Chris
I
was
think
there.
so.
not a town meeting.
No,
No, they have a
it's,
meeting, they have one of their meetings, and it's a budget presentation.
Just like this.
yep, so Mr. Ruccio attended, Mr. Burkalt from Finance Committee attended, Chris Berglund attended. So it's at the schools though, and that's where they go into that detail and
Was that
take
the,
questions.
just like 2 days ago?
Oh,
No,
A
it's-
couple weeks ago.
Maybe even a month ago, month and a half.
Could've been.
But certainly they can address questions at town meeting.
No, I just liked it when Mr. Kane used to come up and do a dog and pony about, like, just like programs he was starting or whatever, things were changing. I mean, that was just like what's going on at the school.
So human services, this is a very small part of the budget, $224,128. Really, Board of Health is no longer supported at all in the budget, so we're talking about the Council on Aging and Veteran Services. So Council on Aging is a 6.1% increase for $146,028. There are some staff steps in here, but this is mostly being driven by contracts to maintain and run the building that are increasing. I'm hopeful that with a facilities person on board that we can look at some of these, but it is an expensive building to maintain. Veteran Services, $78,100, 27.28%. This is not a reduction in any benefits to our veterans. So it does actually increase the hours of our veterans agent from 5 to 15, a stipended position so that he can do more outreach in the community. But there are less veterans receiving benefits. So this is one of those, when I talked at the beginning about places where I went for one time, pulling some cash out one time, this is a place where money could safely sit in the past and then would roll over to free cash or be used for budget fixes. So I've really brought it down closer to reality, I guess, but leaving room if there are additional veterans, 1 or 2 veterans coming on to maintain benefits. If we see a huge amount of veterans coming on, we'll have to do a budget fix.
Here's a question.
Go ahead, Matt. You said on Council on Aging, the building is an expensive building to maintain? Our
She's-
newest building?
It's all the contracts for the building. So her sprinkler contracts, her you know, all those contracts are expensive. Cleaning the grease trap. What else does she, Dave is on the
What
scene.
about the pump station?
Yeah, the pump
Well,
station.
the pump station is going to be handled by the facilities person. I'll talk to you offline, but that, from the water district, does not apply to the maintenance that needs to occur every other week. But there is maintenance that,
Does this mean that this building is not gonna fall apart? Is that why we have all these contracts? I mean, this building
well,
is
all
gonna be
buildings
maintained pretty
require,
well?
all buildings require contracts,
Yeah,
so.
the
like
police have contracts that they have
Right.
fire, they
Right,
have,
so,
and the
so
elevator.
the same thing, the police department, when I said for them that there were contractual increases in police, but those weren't related to the CBA, they were related to their other contracts. They saw an increase there as well. This building has a standalone line. She doesn't have a standalone line for her building. Does that? Okay, culture and recreation, $531,924. It's 2% of the budget, covering library and celebrations, the majority of which is library, at 3.69%, for $530,224. Again, largely being driven by the cost to maintain the building.
Go ahead.
Can I just add a quick question about the veterans? Is the veterans agent going to be going out more often to reach out to veterans? Is that, and his pay is going to be increased?
So the veterans' hours and therefore his pay are going to be increased from 5 to 15, doing more outreach, assisting with some of the other ceremonial events in the community. That may result in more benefits being needed for our veterans. It may result in more people coming on board, and we'll have to address that. That's why I said we'll have to address that with a budget fix if that's the case.
So will his hours and days increase in the building, or is that strictly just for outreach?
No, it's both. He will have increased hours, because right now, he's only contracted or stipend positioned for 5 hours a week. So he's only here 2.5 hours twice a week. So we are going to increase his time that he can be here to meet with folks.
Okay, thank you.
All right, this last big chunk called other, 26% of the budget, $7,687,134. These are really our fixed costs. There's nothing we can do to change these, and when we see the increases, you'll see how that kind of impacts our overall operating position in other areas. So debt service, intergovernmental, employee benefits and risk management, and ESCO lease payments. So debt service is actually decreasing 3.05%, or for a total of $918,902. As the principal is decreasing, there's a reduction on the interest. So intergovernmental, this is Wachusett Earth Day, what else? Wachusett Earth Day, the rail trail, and and the regional planning assessment from CMRPC, 46.77% increase for $7,735. That big increase is because the Wachusett Earth Day was being funded in part from this line and in part from the Recycling Dividends Grant Program. We pulled it out of the grant program so that the grant can be used for other things and put it here. It's not a lot of money, so. But the grant flexibility is significant.
The money that you pay, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
The money that you pay when you go up there, is that part of their operations?
Operations,
too? Okay.
yes. Yeah, that helps support their operations. What they charge the town, actually, it's pretty incredible. It's $4,230. That's it. I mean, for that service, that's pretty incredible.
We should volunteer to pay him more since it's so cheap.
No. I think you should just volunteer to check people in at the door.
She's thinking about it next
Yeah,
year.
let's talk about it.
All right, so employee benefits, risk management, overall a 2.01% increase, but it's $6,498,492. So that increase is $127,950. We saw a large increase this year with our Worcester Regional Retirement Board assessment of 8.42%. Now, on the individual health insurance line, there's actually a decrease in what we budgeted last year versus what we're budgeting now, despite having a 3.5% increase overall in health insurance. And the reason is that last year, there were planned or known of retirements. So there were 15 additional family plans at 80% covered in the budget, so that if folks were coming on with those retirements, that number has been reduced to 12. But again, this is one of those spots that there was always an overage, and so that would be available for free cash or budget fixes.
And this line item has been, this isn't the first decrease where cash has been pulled out of this line item. There's nothing left in this line.
No.
This has traditionally been $500,000+ worth of free cash came out of here. It's now gonna be zero.
So this, as Mr. Crowley stated, this is the end. I mean, we need to leave in the room for people to come on the family plan. So this is really getting close to reality. Hopefully it'll generate some free cash, but it's not gonna be that big source, just like the veterans benefits line. And then lastly, the ESCO lease payment, ending in 2030, $262,105. And that concludes.
Why is it up 3%? I thought, wasn't that a fixed price?
No,
Yes,
it was
no,
a-
it's just an
Fixed
increase?
scale,
it
fixed
was a
scaling.
scale.
As we start paying more, we start going up instead of, isn't it?
Ramping up over
Yeah,
time.
as we stop paying it down,
I don't
should
recall. I
it,
don't
why
know.
should it go up 3%?
It was, the number was over $300,000 several years ago. I don't know.
Because we've paid it down. Right, is that correct? I mean, because we've paid it down?
Yeah, it's a bell curve.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering why it's going up.
I don't know.
3%.
Let's see, ESCO purchase services were increased. I can't speak to what this kind of associates with, but ESCO purchase services increased by $13,000, and then the lease interest, so that's, I'm sorry, the principal increased by $13,000. The interest decreased by $5,656. I can't answer why. I can find out from,
Principal.
I'll find out from Leslie some more details on that and share that with the board.
Yeah, because I don't know why the principal would, we get a payment that we pay every month.
94% of it is covered under the school's
Yeah.
budget, so.
It's still the taxpayers'
Oh,
money.
I understand,
wherever
but
it's
that's
going.
why I don't know the answer.
So, tomorrow, despite that, I gotta change that one period, that's gonna be a comma, but for folks, at home to know, tomorrow, I'm gonna be posting a PDF version of this on our website, so folks can, review it in advance of town meeting and try to understand better, what went into our budget this year, and I'll share that to Facebook as well, once that's posted.
Is this the presentation you plan on using at town meeting as well, or are you gonna do something scaled back?
So what I'm planning to do at town meeting is have an overall presentation from Articles 1 to whatever we are now. Are we back at 29? 1 to 29. Right, that helps keep people on pace. With some of those have more detail behind it, but if we don't need it, I'm just gonna move past it. So, oftentimes I find that the things that we think are gonna be controversial at town meeting are not what's controversial, and people will vote up and down a $29 million budget without a second.
Just should wait for questions instead of offering
Exactly,
everything.
exactly. So they'll just vote the 29 million like that, and then a $500 bill from a prior fiscal year we'll talk about for 25 minutes. So I'll just kind of have it prepared so that if we need to go through any of it, we have it there. But later on the agenda, which is almost over, I do have that, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'll just talk about right now. May 10th, there is at the library an opportunity for residents to come and talk to me. Chris Berglund is kind of going to be moderating to help, go through the event, but what's on the warrant, what's in the budget, so folks have that opportunity if they want to ask some questions and answers prior to coming to town meeting to do so.
Is it available on Zoom?
It is not available on Zoom. It is in person only at the library. And if we can get it filmed, we'll get it filmed, but that is, if you want to know and listen to your neighbors' questions, then that's the place to be. Otherwise, of course, if any resident has a question about any of the town meeting warrant article items, they can feel free to reach out to me. individually.
Okay. So the next item is town admin's report.
Okay. I have it somewhere.
Quick.
Yes, it's very quick. Oh, okay, thank you, Faye. I was gonna pull it up on here. All right, so, there's not a lot to report because between the last meeting and this meeting, most of everything that I've been working on has been town meeting in one way or another. We do have interviews tomorrow in Sterling, for the facilities manager position. The candidate pool looks very strong, so I'm hopeful that, we're gonna get a good person out of that. Just an update on an ARPA appropriation for the bylaws codification. We are partway through that project. We're now, they were looking through our bylaws to look for when there were town meeting votes that weren't incorporated into the actual document that's online. It doesn't mean they're not legal, but they just never made it there. Actually, in doing this warrant, you can see where there's things missing, like the revolving funds are just not there. So they're taking care of that, and then they'll also be looking to find conflicts and inconsistencies within our bylaws to be visited at a future town meeting. But instead of having like the one document that's a PDF, it's a town code style, so you can toggle between the different items. Cemetery bids are in. We've received two proposals. I understand actually now that the Cemetery Commission has reviewed them. I think that was yesterday. I don't know what the results are, but we should have some items to report on that. Castus system, I had last reported that we weren't able to upload videos. It's fixed. And what is not on here is that I heard from Kevin today that the North Main Street sidewalk project, he's going to be announcing it to the community as well. It's going to start like next week, I think. So it'll be a couple weeks of construction, but they're going to get going on that. And the poles will not be in the sidewalk.
Yeah, I brought up that we're building brand-new sidewalks and we're leaving the poles in the center of the sidewalk, which seemed like a good idea, but they're working with the light department.
Yeah.
And he's moving those before they pave them.
Good.
Yeah, that was, MassDOT kind of showed up and didn't give the light department a good heads up that we're coming, can you move your poles in advance, and.
He was planning on doing it after they were paved, dig them out, and then repave the.
But it seems like we've gotten some resolution there. So that's it for me at 9:43.
Okay, thank you. Meetings and invitations, meeting invitations and announcement. Grand opening of Cardinal Catering and Beverages, May 17, 2023, 2 to 5 p.m. And it's already, Town Administrator, Town Meeting Warrant Review, May 10th, 2023, Beaman Public Library. Any future agenda items or select board reports?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.